It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Alex, Andy, Rene, and me. We're all here with lots to talk about, including what some say is the worst security vulnerability in a decade. And yes, it hit Apple. Brand new versions of iOS, macOS, iPadOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePodOS. They're all out today. We'll talk about what you're going to get and what you're not going to get. And is the Apple Do Not Track button privacy theater? A brisk discussion will ensue. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 796, recorded Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. It's not about the Nutella. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by userway.org. Userway ensures your website is accessible, ADA compliant, and helps your business avoid accessibility-related lawsuits. The perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's not only the right thing to do, it's also the law. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. And by Wealthfront. To start building your wealth and get your first $5,000 managed free for life, go to wealthfront.com/MacBreak. And by AT&T Active Armor. You've spent the day staring at your phone, waiting for that one call from the job, the hospital, or the family, and it finally rings, but guess who it is? A robot. Don't let fraud calls disappoint you. AT&T makes your security a top priority, helping block fraud calls with AT&T Active Armor. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor. 24/7 proactive network security, fraud call blocking, and spam notifications to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. Here with us from youtube.com, Rene, Ritchie. Hello, Rene.
Hello, Leo. I spent the whole night covering myths, busting myths, and now I don't know what's real anymore. So I need you all to bring me back to reality.
Were you watching a Mythbusters marathon?
I was making a Mythbuster, an Apple Mythbuster.
Oh,
but now I believe all the conspiracy theories. They're just, I can't tell fact from fiction anymore.
You YouTubers stay up late. You're always working hard. Because I noticed that with my son, he'll say, be 2 a.m. saying, I'm just finishing the video now. Gosh, okay, fine.
Because you want to have it up when the audience is there, Leo. You don't want to have it up when the audience is going to sleep. So you have to sacrifice your sleep for the audience is awake.
Are you talking about why Apple hates NVIDIA?
A whole bunch of stuff like that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Myths debunked.
All the conspiracies.
Par Rene Ritchie. Très bien. Also with us from WGBH in Boston, Andrew Ihnatko. Hello, Andy.
Hello. Now, the thing about with Umbrella Man is that he's wearing a wristwatch. It's a Wittnauer that was not even made until 1967.
All right.
Explain that.
1 minute, 30 seconds in, our first Marvel reference, I believe. Is that Marvel? I don't know.
No. That's Kennedy assassination. The famous.
Yes.
Someone was holding an umbrella
on
the parade route, and that was a signal to the Rosicrucians and whoever that was time to.
I was thinking Umbrella Academy or something like that.
No, the bullet stopped in midair, Leo. It spun 180 degrees and then it went back into Kevin Costner. Explain that.
And now, without further ado, we got Lindsay from 090.media, the maven in charge of office hours. Hello, Andy. I mean, Alex. Alex, Andy,
Hello.
Andy, Alex.
I'm flattered you mistake him for me. I'm flattered.
Hello.
As I am.
Hello.
Hello.
What did you do this morning?
What did I do this morning? Oh, we talked about audio issues. So we were just we were like, what are audio issues and how do we handle them? And so that was today's. Our big excitement is we have a very long day on Saturday. So we're taking a lot of the technologies everyone's been working on all year, taking over remote locations, running a lot of the stuff in the cloud, and we're literally going to have cooking for 1 hour, and then a concert, and then another concert, and then a roundtable discussion.
Sábado Gigantico.
So all of those. Yeah, so we're kind of putting it all together. We're still pretty excited, but we had Michael Krasny on last week. That's up on YouTube. Amazing.
Michael's great.
He's amazing. Like he's as good to interview as he is to as good as he is an interviewer, he's a really good interviewee. Like sometimes that doesn't work.
Well, I think if you're a good interviewer and you've had a lot of interviews and you know how bad it can get, then you become sympathetic.
It's like this.
A little bit of
it was
you
like
don't do
every
the yes/no answer thing. You
well, and also it's like he answers the question completely, but then stops. Like as an interview,
exactly.
Like you know that this is the time that I stop talking.
Soundbite. Yeah.
It was amazing.
We should mention Krasny is probably not known around the world, but he's very well known in the Bay Area because he had a morning talk show on the public radio station for, I don't know, it's 20 years, long time.
Yeah.
Okay, there is some news. First thing first, I woke up this morning. iOS 15.2 was here, and Monterey 12.1 was here. Is this what's going on? Why do they update all at once? Is that the new thing that everything gets updated all at the same time?
They're so codependent now. Like they have so many features that are intrinsically connected that it's easier if they do. Otherwise, you're like, why it says if I update my notes, I can't use my notes on my Mac anymore. What am I going to add? But if it just all works, then it's easier.
Yeah. I think each release has more or less in each one of those things, but it does because I think when they look at I'm going to fix this one thing in this one place, they have to fix all the integrations with it. So the update may be very minor for some of the other platforms for that specific update, but they are continually tying closer and closer together.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if Apple really needs to get rid of the regular update schedule where people are expecting an update even during a certain quarter of the year. At some point, they have to say this will all be ready when it's ready. You will be getting updates throughout the year. You don't have to wait until if we have a great update for notes, we're not necessarily going to have to wait till October to get it. If we have a great update for the camera app, you're not necessarily going to have to wait until the next iPhone before we push all that out, because like we're saying, there's so many codependencies here that it's almost like an episode of the Goldbergs, really.
Anything important to report? I guess I gathered when I joined you guys, Andy was a little unhappy about the lack of something.
Yeah, the best. Well, I'm not mad at you, Apple. I'm just disappointed. We expected more of you. Maybe we should be expecting. No, it's a tough feature.
What's the feature?
Universal control. That was the feature where if you just have an iPad or another Apple device within proximity of your desktop Mac or your desktop whatever, you can basically control all three with the same keyboard and mouse. Like you move the mouse pointer off to the right side of your Mac desktop, and because it knows that your iPad is there and it's off to the right, it will just simply appear on your iPad, and now you're controlling the iPad with that keyboard and with that mouse. And it was one of the reasons why. Well, I didn't need a whole lot of reasons to buy a new iPad Pro this year with the M1 chip, but that was one of the things that kind of sold it to me. That I could use it. I could integrate this so well with all the other stuff I'm doing, and so. But it's a great demo, and the better the demo, the tougher the technology is going to be. And they were supposed to be out this fall, and now they didn't really announce that it was being delayed. They just simply listed it on the master OS product page, and hey, here's this great feature that we're going to have out sometime next year. Anyway, but here's how great it works.
Yeah, Parker Ortolani on 9 to 5 Mac is saying out loud the things we're all too polite to say out loud, which is, will universal control meet the same fate as AirPower? Really? So a couple things. Like one is I've said for a long time, I wish Apple would move away from the monolithic annual release and just say, this is what we're doing for the next year. It starts this September, but we're going to be providing features for the whole year. But some people point out that takes some of the pressure off them. And like, we're already seeing this stuff take 3 months to come out. And if they said, it'll come out whenever, they'll have even less incentive. Like saying September means probably by March. And if they just didn't set any date ever, it could be by 2025. And so I'll concede that it's always good to have a deadline. But AirPower was just it ended up being physically impossible. And the people who said they could do it were just constantly lying about it being possible. And, Apple even bought other companies that said, we can do it for sure. And they couldn't. This is just a complicated feature. I use Sidecar all the time. Like I'm editing in Final Cut with a mini LED screen, and then I have a second mini LED screen to just watch the video on, and it's amazing. And this is like an escalation of that. It can do even more than that. Within reason, like you can drag and drop between devices, which is really, really cool. But that sort of technology is just tricky. And I'm guessing that they're having bugs with it and they'd rather not ship it and have people complain about it over the holidays, but just keep it and then release it when it's in a better state.
Yeah. It's possible that it's in this, what I would call the Samsung stage of development, where it works, but it doesn't work flawlessly. And that's partly a slam at Samsung, but it's an admiration for, look, this doesn't work perfectly, but we're not going to get it to work perfectly until we get people complaining about it and letting us know what's not working right. Apple, to their credit, they will not release something, with rare exception, they will not release something until it works. Sometimes I kind of wish if there's a ropiness tolerance of, let's say, 4.2%, if it doesn't delete data, if it will work for most people, and they will be able to say, oh, by the way, we're doing a public beta release, so to speak, we will let you use this, but it's not quite ready yet, but we want to see how people use it. That might be a positive thing. But yeah, this is a tough one, because this was like AirPower. It was like a big push, but I don't think that'll go the way of AirPower. We're talking AirPower. They're trying to do something that was really breaking the laws of physics.
There are still rumors that AirPower is still in process. I mean,
well, the brand name is still
waiting for it to
go.
have the
thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
We'll get something out of this product. But this
never made it into beta. That was the thing. Like, to Andy's point, like, if this had been in a beta and it was buggy, and then they pulled it from a beta and then it came back, like, that's one thing. But it never made it into beta, which makes you think the timeline.
Did Apple make a mistake announcing it?
In retrospect, absolutely. If they can't ship it and they weren't able to put it in a beta, that means that they had a lot of faith in a system that was not ready to even announce.
I wonder how that happens.
I think the hard part is that you're making announcements about something that's going to be released in October, in June, and it's just there can be things that just kind of fall through that crack, where with a bunch of other updates and a bunch of other things that they've done between now and then, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I think that this is kind of falling probably into one of those, the handshakes and so on and so forth that are required to make it work. And of course, Apple, especially when you're rolling something new out, no one's missing it yet. I mean, we're all like, oh, that'd be great. But it's not like our computer doesn't work. Like it's like, this is a really cool little thing. So what you don't want to do is put out something that's cool but not necessary. And then have a whole bunch of people go on Twitter like, this doesn't work, I don't understand. And so I think that they're going to be careful of making sure that it's really rock solid, so it doesn't create a bunch of complaints on something that, again, somewhere in the future we may all be very addicted to it and couldn't live without it, but we're not there yet. Like we haven't tasted that yet.
Yeah.
There's that other aspect to it too, and they had this with HomePod, where they announced HomePod and it looked great, but then internally at Apple they realized that they had neglected Core Audio and AirPlay for years, and that there were bugs and technical debt and really bad issues with those, and they ended up having to write AirPlay 2, which was non-trivial, and they ended up having to re-architect Core Audio, which was non-trivial, and that created a nice little 2-month, product wind down into a 6-month sprint of marathons, and that could have happened again. Who knows?
Yeah, and the other way of looking at this is that when you're talking about a feature like universal control, it's possible that you might have angered a bunch of people that will say, "Hey, I bought the for me, I bought the iPad Pro not because of universal control, but it was something that double sealed the deal for me." But if you had like a large organization said, "Oh my God, our IT department has come up with this really incredible plan about how we will save money by switching everyone over from laptops to 10-inch iPads. We invested like $10,000, $20,000 into this, and then so the thing that you promised us is now vaporware." That's the sort of risk that you take when you play this long game like this.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. No.
I heard the breath.
I was waiting. Well, I was just waiting to see if you're going to cut us off and move on, or whether we're going to talk about. But I think that. I was trying to be a better citizen.
You've learned from Michael Krasny, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So,
wait, can I just say that Alex and I are really good for the kind of friends where if there's an issue, we will just like to have a quick chat and settle it like very quickly. So this is
I was giving Andy a lot of space.
Exactly.
So anyway, yes. So a lot. Anyway, so the and I think that one of the things when it comes down to these pieces is that it is super complex, like what they're doing, and even things that have been out for a while. If you look at my headphones, knowing which Apple device. The problem is if you really get into Apple and you have lots of Apple devices, the headphones just can't figure out what they're doing. And that's just audio. That's just audio. And I have headphones that I'm like literally the headphones are next to the phone. The phone is the only one open. They're in my ears. I don't understand why you can't figure out that this is the phone that I want to listen from. And that is something they've had out for years. Yeah. And it's still a problem. And so the video is just another set of that and understanding where it is and how it works. So I'm surprised. I'm amazed that it works at all, or that it potentially could work at all. And I'm happy for them to just figure it out as best they can, knowing that it's still going to be messy when they send it out.
Microsoft has a phrase they use far too often. It's a difficult computer problem. And it may be that in fact, I'm sure that there are some things, and maybe Bluetooth handoff is one of them, that are just, intractable. They're hard to solve.
In one company that I've worked with, it's a non-trivial issue.
Non-trivial, exactly.
Non-trivial issue.
That comes from programmers announcing no matter what, that's trivial, until they sit down and do it, and then it's not so
Flip a bit, Leo. Flip a bit.
It's easy. I can do that. All right, well, I guess we're making a bigger deal out of it than it is.
No, it's just.
SharePlay for Mac shipped, so we got something.
Yeah,
true. Yeah. I think the reason why we're talking about it is that it's so unusual for Apple to not ship something that they said was going to ship, even during a vague timeline. So that just shows the track record of Apple, and also, again, I think the level of quality that they aspire to before they're willing to release something.
It's like when Tom Brady throws an interception. It doesn't happen often. So when it happens, you pay attention to it.
But he still looks handsome while doing it.
He still looks damn good.
That is the weirdest connection.
Well, he's a very handsome man, Alex.
Actually, that really makes the analogy perfect, because Apple looks good while they're throwing an interception. They really do.
Right.
So there you go. In fact,
I'm a genius.
Speaking of interceptions, a lot of talk. We did it this Sunday, but I think we should do it now in the presence of actual Apple Macintosh users. Tech Dirt, Apple's Do Not Track button is privacy theater. Financial Times saying Snap, Facebook, and others have gotten around this Do Not Track button. All it really does is say you can't use the Apple ID for advertisers, but there's plenty other ways to fingerprint people. Apple's allowing the exfiltration of, quote, anonymized aggregate information. But as the Financial Times and Tech Dirt pointed out, we've seen lots of studies that show you can de-anonymize information given enough data points pretty easily. And Apple is still letting things like how much battery's left, how much storage is left, things like that leak out. All of those can be used for fingerprinting. So this is actually the most interesting article, and this is more recent from the information. And then I'll let you talk. Hold on a second.
Yep.
Apple's empty threat, ? Silence over iPhone ad workaround sows confusion. Apple has yet to respond, in other words, to the Financial Times. Go ahead, Alex.
This is really good for Apple, this article. And so because what Apple needs people to do is not complain about them being heavy-handed. They need them to complain about not moving fast enough. Because what they're doing is they're doing this slow snare. Like they're just slowly moving around everything. So they're starting to add all these little tools, and they're just slowly tightening all these little screws. If you're ever in a high security event with Secret Service, one of the things they do is everything's easy to get into, and then it's a little harder. Then it's a little harder. Then it's a little harder. Like they keep on circling. They have a whole plan of how they're going to tie this all up. But they're going to take 9 square blocks and make them impenetrable, but not at once.
That makes sense. It's like this. I mean, it's pretty clear now that turning off IDFA is not sufficient, but it's a start, is what you're saying, and it's the beginning.
And you're
of
putting these little
squeeze.
leverage points in, and you're figuring out how they work, and you're watching their behavior. So you get to watch how they're gonna manage what you're doing, and you just slowly tighten this. I'm sure Apple knows how to make it super secure if they wanted to.
Right.
But if they did that immediately, we'd have a bunch of lawsuits about how Apple's a monopoly and they're not letting people in and they're not letting them do all these things. And, this is going to ruin, small businesses and put, Peoria, Illinois out of business and, all this other stuff, that's going to happen. And so what they do is they're putting in the pins, it's kind of like you put the pins in and then you just start pulling really tight, really, really gently in as you start pulling all those things in. And so people are what they need articles like this that say Apple isn't really doing enough. They could do a lot more, because that gives you more leverage to just keep pulling harder. And you can just keep, but what they're doing is they're putting all the points of leverage in that they need to tighten this up, because Apple doesn't have a business model around that data. And so they have their own in-app for the iTunes or whatever. But the thing is that they don't need this stuff. They can just take it. They don't have to let
companies and apps exfiltrate and fingerprinting information or end around IDFA. They are right now. In fact, this is in the article by Sarah Krause and Josh Sisko in the information. They point out that a year ago, Craig Federighi said, "Hey, if apps don't comply with our privacy policy, we can yank them." And of course, they haven't. I mean, so we know that Snap and Facebook and others end around, but Apple's done nothing.
But Apple's done nothing on the surface. Right. So what you're seeing is they get to see what other people's behaviors are. They get to watch how the companies are managing this and what they're doing to get around it, and they get to slowly and they get to make the next decision. But they don't have to make it all at one time, And so the thing is that they're going to go slower than like this. People are going to complain about it being toothless and everything else. The thing is, if Apple did everything they were capable of doing, number one is they wouldn't see some of the holes that are there. Number two is they'd have tons of lawsuits and complaints, because it's going to change this industry as they keep on pulling this in. But they're doing it nice and slowly so that you don't have to, so they don't get as many complaints. And what they want.
We should put out a theory. And we will find out over time if it's true. It is also the case, and there's a lot of ample evidence of this, that these companies, ad tracking companies, will go to the ends of the earth to find ways to fingerprint you and track you. I mean, and so it's not an easy thing to do. Turning off the IDFA may not be much at all. But it's a start.
And I don't think Apple knew it when they did it. Or it could just be, it could also, the contrary argument is it's privacy theater. In the information article, they say Apple made $4 billion in ad revenue last year, which is it's about what Snap would be making. But I don't think these privacy issues. But I don't think the privacy issues would affect Apple's ad revenue, because that's all inside of their app.
No, it's first party. Well, but that's also some of the hand waving is, and Google's doing this in spades, which is no third-party tracking, but we're going to track the hell out of you.
Right.
Facebook, Google, and Apple, and Microsoft, and all have first-party information.
Yeah, but I don't know
how much is valuable.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Rene.
No, I was just going to assert that it's possible that these articles are also bunk. I mean, a large portion of technology journalism these days seems to go off the premise of, can we do something gotcha, and then backfill in the facts to make whatever the most sensational headline possible. And I really lament that. I really lament the prosecution of ideas and starting with a bunch of facts and seeing where they lead you, because
I have to say
over and over again.
Okay, that may be true, but the information and the Financial Times are pretty strong journalistic entities.
I disagree. I think Washington Post is bunk, New York Times is bunk. I think a lot of this stuff is people who don't deeply understand the technology is one of the problems, and that's commonplace. But what Apple did was just say exactly what you said, that you can no longer use the Apple's unique identifier. That's all this has ever been. App tracking transparency made no promises beyond you can no longer use the unique identifier to track people when they leave your app or your set of apps and go into other apps that use your SDK or go out into the web. And as part of the announcement, they're like, people are asking, what about if they track us on the web? And they're like, we can't do anything about that. It's an honor system. If you tell them we don't want to be tracked, they should honor your request, but we have no authority to police the internet.
This is a classic problem with do not track in browsers, which is completely useless. The browsers have it, but it's completely useless because nobody honors it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Alex is correct in that it's. Oh, sorry. I was good. Well, one last thing. I think Alex is correct in that this also for Apple deflates a lot of what I'm going to call propaganda about how they're being so mean to advertisers. Because Apple is making revenue advertising in news, stocks, and the App Store, which is the lamest. They have the worst advertising product in the world. It's just that they're so big that they make a lot of money. It's a scale thing. It's not a quality thing or a reach or a scope thing. Snap makes a fortune in their app. It's just their app isn't so big anymore because the Kardashians left, and Apple can't fix that. But I think a lot of this is just yes, it's going to deflate a lot of regulatory arguments because they can easily get around it, but it lets Apple make statements saying not on our platform. And I think that's all they ever really wanted out of this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I disagree with the headline privacy theater, because I don't think Apple has been as aggressive in promoting this as they have been about other things that claims that they can make about how the company runs itself that could be kind of debunked. They're doing what they can do, which is all we can really expect. Now, I'm going to correct myself that technically speaking, they could probably assign a team, build a team that absolutely locks down the iPhone against pretty much every intrusion that you could imagine. They could make Safari the most privacy-centric. They could create their own Tor network, so to speak, to make sure that and create a library of JavaScript exceptions that, okay, this browser will run JavaScript, but it will not run this when it recognizes this code, it's not going to recognize it because we know is being used for fingerprinting and stuff like that. However, what we can't ignore is that Apple does not have 100% control over their own platform, because if they did that, if they made it impossible for services like Facebook, services like Google Docs to work the way that they do, guess what? All those services will say, well, I guess the showdown is happening. We'll see if people would rather have an iPhone or they would rather have Facebook and Google Docs and Twitter and Google Search and all these other services. So they have to walk a very, very fine line there, and I'm glad that they're doing what they're doing. They're saying, well, we're not going to make it easy for you. We're not going to facilitate it. We're going to create rules so that I think the most important thing they've done is essentially put in this rule into the App Store saying we have the right to pull your app if we think that you're doing something that is unfair to our users. It remains to be seen how they're going to enforce that, but the rule is there so that if someone is really egregious about it, they can just simply pull the app. But the thing is, they don't have the ability to shut everything down. The other point is that remember that a lot of the technologies that make the web actually work, that turn the web into an app platform, that make it so wonderful, do require a lot of access to hardware. I mean, you need to know what the battery level is if you're going to have a rendering app that says, "Ooh, we better not do that because they don't have enough storage to cache everything." Yeah, exactly.
They need this stuff.
So,
like these are legit, like to your point, Leo, like these are frameworks that are necessary for developers to do a plethora of things that we really want them to do, but unfortunately they're just tools, and tools get abused.
Well, and I think that also, again, Apple, I think the one thing that's worked for them is letting the user choose. And I think we'll probably see more of that, where they say, do you not want to be tracked? And so you say, no, I don't want to be tracked or whatever like that, because they're not doing it. They're not doing it themselves. They're asking you, do you want to do that? I think that we could see somewhere in the future where Safari said, do you want to go into safe mode? You know, that isn't going to execute all these things. And the user just decides. Apple won't put it on by default. They'll let the user decide they want to turn it off, and it will devastate the industry. Like if they put that in there, it'll just rip, because then it's people who want to keep on having their Google Docs and their Facebook and everything else will just leave it open. You know, they'll just say, oh, I don't want to do that because I want these things, but 80% will turn it off. You know, and that's when things get really hit.
YouTube stops working.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
I love, but I think one of the most effective things Apple's doing is promoting this name and shame thing, saying that we will give you a report that shows you exactly what sites are tracking you, what apps are tracking you, what they're collecting. Yeah. If then it's up to make an informed decision. If you're okay with all of this, by all means, go ahead. We're not going to stop it from working, but we will allow the information. We will allow all these other publications to say, hey, how come this calculator app is asking me for my date of birth and a recent photo? That's not right.
Yeah.
I should probably also just clarify that there are a lot of really good reports out there. And I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, because I think that fake news has been like just the term fake news is incredibly damaging. But I also think because it's so weaponized and because people are attacking the media left and right, it is incumbent on people like us in the media to make sure that we dot our I's, we triple check everything, and we're not, and I say this as a YouTuber who needs to clickbait everything.
I don't think there's factual errors in either the information or the Financial Times piece. They're factually accurate. The assessment,
but they're making a narrative.
The narrative may not be, but that's that happens all the time. That's the subjective part, but the objective part is absolutely accurate, and I think it's not there are different interpretations. You guys are Apple fans, and so you're interpreting it in a way that's positive to Apple. Not the rest of the world is not necessarily that way, and it's not unreasonable to say, hey, this is not. Apple is resting its laurels on how private they are, and this one checkbox, you and I know that, but the rest of the world doesn't make that much of a difference. That's a completely legit narrative. What Apple's future plans are, unknown. And I don't think it's fair to speculate what they're planning.
I don't think it's legit though. Like I think you can like we often see this with the headlines being taken one or more ways, like a positive version, a negative version. This just like I hate to say, like, my mom will see a BBC report and she'll call me and she'll say, they've hacked my iPhone. And it's completely not
Nobody's
true.
saying that.
And this is the same.
This is not, look, I'm going to completely disagree with you, Rene. Apple's do not track button as privacy theater is accurate. It's accurate. It does very little for privacy, period. No, that's a fact. You can say, well, Apple's going to tighten down the bolts, or Apple never said it was going to be private, or blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, Apple's ads are all over the place saying privacy, privacy, privacy. And the thing that they did, which, by the way, Facebook and Snap are going, oh, my God, in fact, does not harm them. So I think that's completely legit. I think that's completely legit. It's privacy theater in the same way taking off your shoes at the airport is security theater. I think that's a legit headline completely.
It is. Well, what I would say, I don't know. What I would say about the privacy theater anyway, the issue with privacy theater is that what it's effectively doing also, though, is moving public opinion. Because as you start to do that, and as you start to have more expectations,
Apple may have all sorts of commercial plans that are, good, but that's all speculative. It's completely legitimate at this point to ring the bell and say, you know that thing Apple did 7 months ago? It didn't do anything.
Right. But it is. But when you're right. But what I'm saying is that when the number comes out that's 84, 85, or 86% people are saying they don't want to be tracked.
Yeah. There's a signal there.
That theater it opens up a whole bunch of doors for a whole bunch of new things that didn't occur. And again, this gets into, if Apple did everything it could do, they'd end up with lawsuits and people upset. And that the same article, the same writer for the same magazine would be writing something completely different about how Apple's heavy-handed and ruining all these things and making it not fun to be there anymore and all these other things. Because they're doing it slowly, it's fine for them, for people to complain they're not moving fast enough. But I think that we're going to keep on seeing. I will be blown away if we don't see Apple just keep on just slowly turning a little crank. Yeah, that slowly just
and by the way, that's a completely legitimate footnote for this show, because that's what we talk about. But I don't think it's fair to castigate the Financial Times, the Information and Tech Dirt.
I'm castigating, Leo.
I know you are, but I think they're pointing out something that's objectively true.
I agree with you.
How many of those apps asked us, though? Like, those pop-ups came up so often, and we got to see how many of them were using this feature. And if nothing else, it just opened the light on those cockroaches.
Well, but I think that's part of the problem is that now we go, oh, see, I said no, I'm not being tracked. Yeah. Well, guess what? That was not that changed a thing.
Yeah, the only thing that really kind of got up my nose was the privacy theater is such an incendiary term, kind of like fake news, where as soon as you say it, you're inviting in a huge environment of negativity around it. I don't think that it quite merits that, but I agree with your point that if that Apple should not say that, hey, look, we care more about privacy than any other. Well, actually, we didn't want to lie to you. We're about to say that we care more. No other company cares, but we care, and we are protecting you. They're not as aggressive about that as they used to be. When they used to say, "Oh, we're the only one where you don't have to worry about malware, you don't have to worry about viruses, you don't have to worry about any sort of malicious attacks." As long as they're not pressing that button that hard. But you're right that if it's an easy buzzword that say to say that, hey, if you just simply flip this switch on the iPhone, no apps will not be able to track you. We don't want that. We don't want that to be the narrative that people understand. It is a complicated, multi-layered thing, and that there is no one switch that can be flipped that will protect you from being tracked.
Analogous to the Do Not Track button in your browser, which many security experts, including Steve Gibson, quickly pointed out. It's an honor system, so good luck with that. And I think it's very similar to that. And
I think that the issue that I have
is foolish.
The issue that I have with any article that's sizably one way, like this is it's simple and this is what's actually happening, is that it's always wrong. Like, everything's more complicated than it looks. So the thing is, anybody who thinks it's black and white, like, this is a very black and white article of, like, this is just the way it is. And not that, oh, Apple could be doing these other things, at least as a footnote. We're giving the footnote that should exist in the article of giving people both sides. That's why people call and say that they're being, tracked on, because someone is, for someone to work in a somewhat balanced Financial Times we think is relatively balanced or whatever. For someone to have credibility, they have to be able to show you a little bit of both sides of what's actually happening here, as opposed to, and we've gotten into the press where it's all one-sided, like it's just going to be what it is, and they're going to say the way it is. And I think that's one of the powers, for instance, of this show, is that we don't always agree. And so the listener gets to hear both sides of that, and then they make a decision about what they want to believe. But I think that when you write the article, it's incumbent on you to kind of think about both sides, of what that is, and at least tell the reader there could be reasons for it, rather than just like, this is all a sham.
And you could write the same article, like putting on my old hat, you could write the same article going, Apple fires first shots in war over privacy, companies desperate spinning up new technologies to track us. All of this is just like narrative editorial choices. And I think a lot of times we're skewing towards the more cynical ones. And I'm hoping that's in the past and that we get to a more optimistic future at some point.
I think they're going to say, oh, you guys are just a bunch of Pollyannas. And the cynical view is exactly the view that continues to come out.
Excuse me, I prefer to be called a Poindexter. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, I think
honestly, let's think about it. The track record of privacy across the board in the ad industry is not good.
Yes.
It's zero. It's less than
zero. And frankly, the ability of companies, whether it's browser companies or Apple, to fix that has been minimal, if not zero, partly because these guys are like ants. I mean, they're going to find some way to get in,
and
no matter
use their
what
services.
You do. But I mean, I think what Carl Bodie is arguing in Tech Dirt is there needs to be effective governmental privacy laws, because nothing is going to happen if all you do is check boxes and say, don't track me.
100%.
And that's fair.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And that was by the way, that was the point of his article is, companies can say do not track, but until somebody really cracks the whip, it ain't going to happen.
Well, I mean,
because ad companies want information. They want that information.
Like if something is 20% something and 80% something else, I don't think you need to cover it 50-50 in a fake sort of fair and balanced way. I just think you got to stick to the facts, and part of the facts and part of the opportunity of journalism is educating people. It's not just saying, do you know this or not know this? It's like, if you don't know this, I'm going to tell it to you. I'm going to explain this. I'm going to leave you smarter than you were when you started it. And I have this very Aaron Sorkin-esque ideal of this kind of stuff. So I get my
and by and large, GDPR is theater. Privacy theater. Like you could write the exact same article about GDPR. We have all these websites that are popping up that have us select all those things, but no one's really enforcing that yet. And if and when the EU starts to tighten that, it creates all kinds of problems for everyone. But people are ignoring that a lot. And we have to have the hard conversation. If I have to build a site, I have to explain to people like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. We have to have approval. We have to have, we're telling them what they have to do because of GDPR, and they're like, but we didn't do that last week on this other website.
Yeah, and your point is that GDPR is not really being enforced.
It's not being enforced at all in the same way.
It has the teeth. It could be enforced.
It does.
But it's also damaging.
Yeah. So
the point is that it's also theater until it starts to be enforced.
Somebody enforces it. I agree.
And Apple has all these teeth that it has in that agreement of what they can do. They're just not enforcing it. And so GDPR and Apple's privacy are kind of on par, right now. Now, both of them have the ability to be tightened a lot. And I think that we're going to see both GDPR as well as the California laws, as well as But to your point, though, even though there's government regulation, it's not doing any better right now, or very little, other than giving us a lot of annoying little pop-ups.
It's still ramping up. GDPR isn't that old. Yeah. Italy just fined Amazon 1.13 billion euros, which is.
But I don't think that was against GDPR. I think that was Italy's own thing.
It was anti-competition, but I'm saying we're starting to see countries, Italy, Poland, coming up with, and that's how GDPR works, by the way. It's, member nations have to enforce it. I suspect we're going to start to see more and more of that.
Again, my only argument is that I think that GDPR is slowly being tightened, and so is Apple. It's just we're just seeing these privacy things that when we talk about theater, right. they're both of them are happening about the same time.
There's a significant difference, which is that GDPR has the weight of government and massive fines behind it. Apple has commercial weight behind it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing too is in face of all this regulation, you see Apple's being chastened in some ways. They're changing App Store regulations. They're allowing. I don't want to say allow because.
We're nudging them in the right direction,
but they're doing self-repair.
Yeah.
Google is YouTube is going through this whole crisis of conscience about how they handle this activity. And yet Facebook is just hiring people that want to go out and make the world worse. It's like, it's an amazing contradiction in how these things are evolving.
Facebook is not as nudgeable, I guess. Let's take a little break. And while we do some technical adjustments, I'd like to tell you about userway.org. Userway is something I can really resonate with because we do audio programming, my radio show, the podcasts. I hear from a lot of blind listeners. And one of the number one complaints from all disabled listeners is accessibility. The thing is, there is a great system for accessibility built into every browser. It's called the accessibility layer. And if a website gives them the right information, a website can be totally usable. This is something you want, by the way. You don't want to leave 60 million Americans with disabilities out in the cold. You want to do the right thing. And by the way, you don't want to be sued over the Americans with Disabilities Act, which says you have to be accessible. Userway is a pioneer in innovating accessibility technologies. They've got an incredible AI-powered solution that automatically enforces the hundreds of web content accessibility guidelines, WCAG, with just one line of JavaScript. Userway can achieve more than an entire team of developers, making your website accessible. And I know, look, I have websites. That can be overwhelming. It sounds like it's going to be hard. You're going to have to hire engineers or it's going to be expensive. The Userway's solutions make it simple, easy, and cost-effective. In fact, the price is very affordable. The cost for us of Userway is less than what we pay to web font foundries for our web fonts. It's really affordable, and I'm going to make it even more affordable in a second. Check out the Userway scanning tool. It's at the website, userway.org/twit. You can run it. You can see where you have problems or if it's fully compliant. If it is, bravo, well done. Userway is something that some of America's biggest companies turn to. Over 1 million websites trust Userway, including Coca-Cola, eBay, Walmart, Disney, UNICEF, FedEx. They all use Userway to make their sites accessible because it's good business. And now Userway's best-in-class enterprise-level accessibility tools are available to us, small and medium-sized businesses. And, of course, if you should become a giant business, Userway is there for you. It's ready. Userway uses this line of AI to fix all sorts of things, automatically generating image alt tags, for instance, using computer vision. So all the descriptions in there, you can modify them, you can improve them. Absolutely, Userway makes that easy, but it gives you the start. It will remediate one of the biggest complaints I hear, which is nav menus. Actually, everybody has a problem with nav menus. Nav menus that are, just unusable. It's a big problem. That Userway ensures all pop-ups are accessible, all forms. It fixes vague link violations, any broken links. It does things that you might not even think about. It makes your brand colors more accessible, not by changing the color itself, but just the brightness and the saturation. Userway is completely platform agnostic, by the way. It works with everything. It's easy with WordPress, Shopify, and Wix. No problem. AEM, Sitecore, SharePoint, even a custom-built site. That if you can add a line of JavaScript, you can add Userway. It integrates seamlessly and works perfectly. And it helps your business meet its compliance goals and improves the experience for all your users. Just listen to Susan Bennett, the voice of Siri. Hear what she has to say.
Hi, I'm Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri. You won't hear me say something like this too often. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're looking for. But every day, that's what the internet is like for millions of people with disabilities. Userway fixes all of that with just one line of code.
Userway can make any website fully accessible and ADA compliant so that everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly, customize it to fit their needs. It's also a perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. Go to userway.org/twit, 30% off right now. Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. Userway, making the internet accessible for everyone. Userway.org/twit. We thank them so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. We thank you for supporting us by using that address too. Userway.org/twit. All right, let's see. What else is new? This isn't strictly speaking Apple news, but it's going to affect everybody. It does affect Apple a little bit. Log4Shell. Some people have described it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this extensively on Security Now. but some people have described this as the worst security vulnerability in a decade. It affects pretty much everybody running Apache, which is the #1 server technology in the world. Apache struts. It is a bad exploit that gives hackers the ability to run malicious code on the servers. It's affected a lot of servers. I think it affected iCloud, I believe.
It's insanely easy to do, too. That's the thing. I mean, in the login, if you put a specific thing into when they say ask for your email and password, and you put this string into the email where it's asked for your email, it goes into the log and it's immediately executable. Like that is a crazy, I mean, it's like there's no wall there at all.
Yeah. This is a logging system, a Java-based logging system, Log4j. Any browser could exploit it easily. It included not just Steam, Twitter, Cloudflare, Amazon, Tesla, Google, LinkedIn, and Minecraft. iCloud also subject. So
now the fix is, from what I understand, is relatively simple, but
the patch is out.
It's just so many.
Yeah, this is, by the way, highlights another very big weakness in the infrastructure of the internet. All these commercial companies are running on an open source project run by volunteers.
The guy who fixed it does this in his spare time.
Yeah.
Like the guy who found it and fixed it, he's like, oh, I do this when I can.
You know, these companies might want to kick in just a little to some of these projects that their infrastructure relies on.
It's also when people say like open source wins, it's an automatic thing. It's not. You've got to have people looking at all that code all the time.
Yeah, and open source, like all code, is vulnerable to mistakes and flaws and exploits, and these things happen. The good news is it was fixed very, very quickly, but now you've got to patch all these servers.
And that also affects a lot of people who are like my own home server. Like I was like, I turned off my Synology NAS when I heard about this like late Thursday night, because I'm like, okay, I think I will just turn it off. I believe that it's running Apache somewhere, and it took a couple of days for Synology to verify that nope, this Synology NAS servers are not vulnerable to this. But that part of the problem was that as soon as this information started leaking out as a Minecraft bug, immediately everybody with half an interest in trying to exploit this started saying, gee, I wonder what I could do with this. And that's why it really became it ruined everybody's Friday, everybody's weekend, because it had to be locked down real quick, because as soon as you find out, as soon as the lights go out all over Manhattan, that's when people start figuring out, hey, I could get that new TV.
Well, and the issue is that it's not just that it opens up your server and the big servers can all get handled, but now there's a trust issue between all the servers, because all these people who haven't handled it, the millions of servers that haven't even been touched yet to be fixed, because people don't even know that they're running it probably, they're now going to have malicious code that could be talking to other servers. I mean, so it just opens up this incredible can of worms. It's pretty amazingly horrible.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just quickly, one of the biggest security problems in the world is just the simple fact that if something is working, people tend to leave it alone. And so oftentimes it's an operating system, it's a server, it's something like that. They don't know how it works. The person who set it up no longer works for the company. All they know is that they're getting their documents sent from one division to another very, very easily. They don't know that they're running like an old unpatched version of Apache that still has this vulnerability, and that's where trouble starts.
Yeah. Patch. But mostly that's fixed. I guess the resonance will be felt for years and to come throughout all sorts of communities. Yeah. Steve Gibson will, I'm sure, in great detail cover the Log4Shell vulnerability later this afternoon on Security Now. Apple, we were talking about how Apple, the judge said, you got to implement these new App Store rules. Apple has appealed and won a delay. So, once again, you don't have to worry about it.
We knew that. We knew that when it came up, when they were going back to the judge. That is as we talked about on a couple episodes ago. That's what you have to do first, is you go back to the judge and ask them to reconsider. But that was one step for Apple to move it to an appeals court. Yeah. And so
the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has granted the iPhone maker's request to delay implementation, perhaps for years, because this is going to go on for a while. This is part of the one part of the Apple Epic lawsuit that Apple lost. Yeah. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers said you've got to implement it by December. Apple appealed, and they won on appeal. Let me see if I can find the...
By the way, I think part of the problem was she was so unreasonable about it. If she had said a year out, it might have actually stuck. But saying it was 3 months out was not going to ever work for an appeals court.
The appeal was because they didn't, the appeal was to not have to implement it while they were appealing it, which I think was the other part. Like if they had, if she had stated so that they wouldn't have to implement it while they were appealing it, this wouldn't have happened anyway.
Well, but that's the issue. But
they also keep getting this language.
Go on for years. So her point, in fact, she addressed that specifically in her judgment, is look, if I allow a stay on a pending appeal, this will never happen. So,
but I think there's
a difference, which was December 9th. It was a little bit.
They keep getting that language put in, which says that they can still charge commission even on external. And I think that's the most important part to them, is to just keep having that stated over and over again.
Yeah. Well, and the
people
thing
don't believe it.
And I think that the issue is, again, it was so short a runway to move anything large that, if she had said it had to be done by the end of 2022, that would have been a different conversation for the appeals court. But having something that's this close, I think it's reasonable for you to figure out whether you can or can't do it before you start making people change their infrastructure and their entire business model. It's reasonable to say, well, why don't we find out if everybody agrees first? I think the big problem for Epic is that they've now basically lost almost everything that they went for. They've burned up a relationship with one of their largest partners. That partner will most likely be promoting Unity all of next year. It's billions of dollars, that can be racked up to hubris. so
Unreal 5 looks so good, Alex.
The Ninth District kind of sent a signal that Epic's suit has very little merit. This is granting Apple's appeal, this is the order, said Apple has demonstrated at minimum that its appeal raises serious questions on the merits of the district court's determination that Epic Games failed to show Apple's conduct violated any antitrust laws, but did show that the same conduct violated California's unfair competition law. So effectively, the court is saying, you know what, there's not a whole lot of merit in Epic's case in any respect. Yeah. Right. So that's over. I'm a little gruntled, but that's okay. I would have liked that button that said buy it on the web, but okay, fine.
Same. Yeah.
I'm very surprised when this suit was launched. They had a murderer's row of litigators on their backs. Basically, people with experience in antitrust, the hammer experience in this kind of case. I thought that Apple was going to be in a lot more trouble than they actually turned out to be.
Yeah,
yeah. I think that they had an incredible team. There's no case. Which exactly. I will say that I said from the day one, like there's no case here. So there was they just have to prove things that are not provable, and that's they have to be able to separate the iPhone from all other phones that look exactly like it and say that it's somehow a different thing, and that just is really that's an uphill battle for someone to make a decide. That just almost undoable. Which we found out is almost undoable.
Your point has been proven. I think this is it. And I wonder how far Epic is going to pursue this at this point. I suspect they just drop
But
the case.
He doesn't seem like he's that kind of guy.
Really?
No, Tim Epic does not seem like he's easily swayed. I'm sorry, Andy. I don't think you were going to say the same thing. But
the court's basically saying you got nothing here, guy.
Founders aren't rational, Leo. CEOs are rational. Founders are not rational people.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say is that the judge, when you read the ruling, seemed almost annoyed, saying that, look, here's how you could have won this case, but you didn't say that. Okay, or you could have said this, but you didn't make that case. Or you could have accused them of that, but you didn't do that. So it's almost as if they're saying, everybody wants to sue Apple. Here's the pressure. Here's how not to waste my time with a lawsuit against Apple. Please don't waste my time.
I think that the issue is all of those things have other problems with them. Like all the things that he pointed out. He said, yeah, those are things that are there. I think that the fundamental issue is the reason Epic is playing for this is not because of Fortnite or anything else. They are playing for the metaverse. They think that the metaverse is a big deal. They think that they could be they are already selling lots of assets, into that process. And so it's the very nature of the metaverse is what they're fighting about. Is that they don't want to sell games. They want to sell assets. They want to sell tons and tons and tons of assets into an ecosystem, and that entire business model doesn't work inside of the Apple ecosystem, because you can't have lots of people exchanging assets back and forth for real cash value and have that actually turn out. And so I think that, I think it's less about their current model and about their future business model. And I think from the future perspective, I think, again, the problem they're really going to have is that they've really, if you pick a fight with a really big person, you need to make sure you're going to win. And when you don't win, this gets real ugly real quick. And I think that they were already being brought in for the keynotes, and Apple was showing them off and pushing them forward, and that's worth billions. Like, them being put up on that keynote stage is worth billions, and now they're going to most likely see. Again, we saw Weta being brought up on the keynotes. So there's no reason why Weta Digital won't be back up on the keynotes as a unit of Unity.
Can they compete, Alex? Because it sounds like Epic
with Weta
has bought,
they can.
Every rendering talent on the planet, and the Unreal 5 looks amazing.
I will say that without Weta Digital, I would have said no. And this is the crazy thing, is almost all of us had written Unity off. Like, we were just like, well, Unity isn't really competitive anymore. There's not really going to be anything there. We should just all focus on. And we really thought, until this lawsuit popped up, we really thought it was all about Unreal. And Unreal 5.0, Unreal 5 looks amazing. Nanite is amazing. A lot of the new tools are really amazing. But I don't know if that matters. That matters for games, those high, really, really high poly solutions. But it doesn't necessarily matter on a day-to-day AR business model, and the way that graphics will be used in the next couple. It makes a big difference in what'll happen in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Next 1, 2, 3 years, maybe not as much. And what the problem is that what it did was it took a nearly clean kill of Unity, and now Apple's going to build them up. They're going to build them up as another solution, and it's because they've already partnered with Weta, and so Weta's going to come out as a unit of Unity, and all of those things are going to pick up speed again, and it was just something that they didn't need to do. And now, if they think they're going to get any help as Apple goes, if Unreal thinks they're going to get any help at all, going into what Apple thinks is its next big business, they've given up all of that. They're not going to. Yeah. There's no special meetings. There's no inside connections. There's no, all of that's gone. And so it was just,
says Tim,
super expensive mistake.
But still,
billions, tens of billions.
Yeah, but still, it does point out the importance of this kind of fight and why I don't think this is going to be the last Apple hears of it. Apple is going to spend a lot of time over the next 4, 5, 6, over the future of the App Store, defending the concept of if anybody who uses any of the product that is sold through an app on the App Store, we get 30%. We deserve 30%. We're entitled to 30%. When it becomes a point when the monetization of an app becomes that here's a marketplace where we can make a lot more money off of the stuff people buy through the app than the app itself, that really raises a lot of legitimate questions about, well, look, how did you help us? You didn't necessarily, all you did was you made the phone, that's fine, but we're also kind of helping you sell the phones by making good products. How are you giving us 30% value by forcing us to every time someone buys a pony, you get 30% of the pony? I'm not taking a position one way or another on it, but as the value of that level of transaction becomes more and more and more important, and it's already hugely important in gaming, I think that Apple's going to be forced to defend this over and over again, probably with better and better arguments against them.
Here's what you'll be missing on Apple's platform. This is the Unreal Engine's newest demo with the Matrix. 33,000 simultaneous vehicles in this demo. Let me see if I can skip ahead to some of the vehicular.
When they get to the old Keanu, I can't always tell them apart. I can't. Like the older Keanu, when he moves in and out, I can't always tell.
You can't
which
tell.
one is real.
The new Keanu is even cooler and more mellow. That's how you can tell.
So,
and the helicopter scenes are unbelievable.
This is not the movie, by the way. This is the game.
Yeah,
I just want to point this out.
It's not even the game. It's just a demo.
Well, it's a demo. But I think, this is Unreal Engine, right? So I imagine it will look somewhat like this. Not on any iOS device.
Well, again, if you look at, but if you want to say, oh well, Unity can't do that. Well, look at Oatmeal Studios doing stuff on, I think it's on Amazon or whatever. That's all done in Unity.
Right.
So Unity's capable of a vast majority of these things as well. And again, what really where the shoe dropped was with when they bought Weta Digital, because that's going to give them immense, technological resources that's 250 engineers, that are already doing film quality work. It really puts them in an entirely different position. And so I think that there's a lot to be said there. And to Andy's point, I think that which I've said in a couple times, is I think Apple's only predator is antitrust at this point. They don't have any natural peers or predators at this point. They're moving faster than everyone else. It's as if you had a 800-pound gorilla that could run as fast as a cheetah. Like, that's the problem that everybody has, is that they're moving really fast and they're really big, and that is going to eventually become a problem. I think where antitrust has more teeth is that I think Apple has the potential to just lay waste to the AR landscape, and the real problem that they're going to have as they roll that out is becoming a monopoly in that space, and not having another group that has 50%, or like right now, Google still some Google version of Google still has 75%, maybe, but Facebook's trying, and they're very excited about it, and they changed their whole name, so far their rollout has been sputtering compared to what Apple appears to be doing, and so I think that there's this huge weight of sometime over next year or the year after, we're going to see this massive rollout, and I think that's going to it's going to be something that Apple could end up owning. But the problem with owning it, the best thing that ever happened to Apple, even though they're bitter about it, was Android. Like, it is literally the best thing that happened to Apple. Apple was the Android platform.
Apple was the best thing that happened to Microsoft when they were under antitrust scrutiny.
Exactly. And Android was way better for Apple than Apple was for Microsoft, because Apple never broke 10%. Android has 75% of the world market right now. Right. So that's what makes all these antitrust really complicated with the phone. But the issue is, if Apple moves into a new market and suddenly owns it, it becomes this ball of wax where they have to worry about it. And I'm sure that they're thinking through those things. And I think that, to Andy's point, I think that it's Apple's right in its current state to charge 30% because it's its business. I don't think 30% is sustainable. I don't think that it's going to stay that way. I would be 5 years from now, if we're paying more than 15 and probably more than 10, I'd be surprised.
I think it's going to be pushback from users once the things start breaking. Where I'm sick and I think people are kind of okay with leaving the Kindle app to buy a Kindle book. They're kind of okay with leaving Comixology to buy comics once a week. Once it becomes, no, I can't do damn near anything in this app until I tab into a Safari browser and make the purchase there. That's when Apple's going to start to feel pressure, I think.
I think that the issue is that I don't
Game Pass. Really upset. No, I'm seriously upset. I can't Sorry, Alex.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Rene.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's my argument was always, if the Google Play Store was that much better, people would be making apps that just couldn't be possible on the App Store, and that'd be the biggest way to change Apple's business. Like, if Uber could only work on the Google Play Store, Instagram could only work on the Google Play Store, Apple would change their business model in a heartbeat. And I could never find anything. It was always antivirus apps. That's the only type of app that Apple doesn't have on the App Store. But now it's like game streaming services. It's like that in 2 years, that's going to be like not having Netflix and Disney Plus on your platform. And I still can't wrap my head around how Apple can be that short-sighted.
I know that games are really, that games are a big deal, and Apple makes a lot of money with games. I just don't think that Apple users are as geeky as we make them out to be, in that they want the ecosystem. A lot of what Apple does is it's seamless, and it doesn't take a lot of time, and they don't have to think about it very much. And I think for most Apple users, that's more important than the individual features. When Fortnite disappeared, there wasn't an uprising. People weren't that up. They're like, oh, I'll play something else. Because their Apple ecosystem was far more important than any given game. And I think that it's going to be difficult to tear them away, because I think that for real Apple users that are really just using Apple, they're not kind of partially Android and partially Apple and everything else. But like for people who are like me, I will admit, I have Android stuff, I have Windows stuff, but 99% of my world is in an Apple ecosystem. I view anything that changes that ecosystem as an existential threat. And if the app doesn't work on the Mac, I go, well, I probably won't use that. And I think that I'm pretty representative of people who are solely on the Apple platform, is that we want it to be easy, and we don't want it to be a distraction. And there's not that many things that we really care about that outside of that our platform works, and so I think that that's the hard part. Is I don't think you're going to get, I think you may get regulators getting talked to by the companies that want into that platform, but you have an enormous number of people that I think the vast majority of Apple users, I would not say all, but probably 80-90% just don't care.
Well, that's probably true.
Better content for Apple.
It's like saying, people who live in Canada don't miss steak and shake and bake, because
Shake Shack. We do miss it, Leo. We miss it because
you have no
day.
experience. It's the same way that we have. We don't really care about Tim Hortons all that much.
We've
we
tried
just
it
don't
at
know what we're
Airport.
missing. However, I think you're right. At this point, Apple's only threat, I mean, they've fended off this threat pretty darn well, is from within. I don't think anybody's going to come from outside Apple and disrupt your perfect.
The problem is that again they're in a
system.
They're in a hockey stick moment. They're in a hockey stick moment at a $3 billion. I mean, $3 trillion. That's crazy. Like just to think about that, just for a minute. Like the fact
successful.
that they are. Yeah. But it's not just that they're successful. They're about to become a lot more successful, and that's the crazy.
That's no measure, however, of quality. It's merely a measure of success. McDonald's is pretty successful too, but it's not the best steak I ever had.
Yeah, McDonald's isn't.
You guys have steak at McDonald's?
Well, it's chopped up into a patty, but it's there's beef in there.
We've lowered our expectations. We're going to call that steak.
It's a chopped cheese. I gotcha.
I'm glad you're happy. So happy in the Apple ecosystem. I'm, good for you.
I am.
But
I just think
it doesn't mean it is above all criticism or it is.
If they didn't have Netflix
I don't think it's above all.
Disney Plus, it'd be a problem. And I think going forward, if they don't have content, like they've never been super successful at games, and as we go from the Apple TV to VR, that's going to be a much more key component, because it's going to be about immersive experiences. And a super easy way to solve for that is just to have Game Pass and PlayStation Store and Nintendo Store.
Well,
and all
now we know, by the way,
heavy lifting
from the Apple Epic, the trial that keeps on giving, that both Microsoft and Sony at one point were very interested in getting into the App Store. Both decided not to. Microsoft said, given Apple's rules, there's no place for us there, and created XCloud and Safari. Sony just said, forget it entirely.
But can you imagine Netflix having to put every one of their videos in the iTunes Store? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they weren't good
just
rules.
apply the same rules as the iTunes Store.
But also, to Alex's point, Apple's sheeple don't care. I don't think they're saying, gosh, I really want to.
Sheeple and I care.
Well, I think that the thing is that I think that Apple users oftentimes, I think that the nature of it is they've got a lot of things going on in their life, and their technology isn't the center of it. Like they just, like they're not like centered around the technology and the next new thing.
I'll give you an example, because I completely agree with you, and because I do that radio show I hear from normal people all the time. Here's a perfect example of people who do want it to be simple, and Apple took away Siri's ability to send email, to send traffic directions, a whole bunch of stuff, has made no comment about why or whether they're ever going to bring it back, and has discombobulated, many of its users. Now, those people
especially the accessibility community.
Yeah, especially accessibility, but not just. There's elderly people and there's others. There's a lot of reasons people might want to use Siri to do these things. They just took that capability away, and that's the downside to a walled garden. Is you're also completely at Apple's mercy.
Well, we're always
being at Apple's mercy. I understand, but
we're at
shame, Leo.
No, but what I would argue, I guess, is that we're at everybody's mercy. Like everybody we go to, like I threw a tantrum the other day because I realized that I can't get Nutella at Whole Foods because it competes with their own 360 brand. You can't buy Nutella at Whole Foods. They took Nutella out, and I suddenly realized it was gone. And then I realized other things were gone.
Terrible for you more than anything else.
I don't have that much of it.
It's not exactly a health food, Alex.
No, it isn't a health food. But the point is that. But what I realized is why they did it. It wasn't. Leo, it wasn't about the Nutella.
Health? Okay.
It wasn't about the Nutella. It's the principle of the thing. So the principle of the thing is that Whole Foods is, since Amazon took over, Whole Foods is once I saw that, I started paying attention to Whole Foods. I spend a lot of time at Whole Foods, and the
Whole Foods is very much, by the way, like Apple. So I'm not surprised.
Totally. Well,
also like Amazon.
Here's what happened here's what happened was we were doing this video with someone who makes food, and we were talking about the fact that they were asked by Costco to come in to sell their food. No, to sell food into Costco, but Costco wanted them to change all their ingredients and add more whole bunch of things that basically are a whole bunch of preservatives, right? Into their stuff, and they just chose not to work with Costco. Yeah. That conversation basically meant I'll never go to Costco. because what it meant was that the brand that you see in Costco is not the same food that you buy anywhere else. And as soon as I realized that, I couldn't eat it.
They do sell 6-pound buckets of Nutella, however.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. It's not about the Nutella. It's not about the Nutella.
I mean, if you really need Nutella,
for the show, it's not about the Nutella.
You can a lot of Nutella
pastries. You need Nutella.
The point is that I have to, in everything, what state we live in, what city we live in,
we're at everybody's mercy. I agree.
You're making. They have made decisions that I've decided.
That's why we fight for freedom as hard as we can.
Sure. But
G.I. Joe is there.
And we can fight for that, and we get on the show, we complain about it, people can complain about it. But the point is that everything is that way. Everything around us is someone made a bunch of decisions. I don't agree with all of them, but I've decided this is the best it can be.
But Steve Jobs said that the secret to life is realizing that those decisions were made by people who are stupider than you, and you can change that.
Yes. And Alex Foods is going to do that.
And people who care about it as much, if they really care about it, they throw a tantrum. And I think that, for instance, I will be surprised if the accessibility issues don't come back in, because accessibility is super important to Apple. And so for no good business reason other than they care about it. Like it's not a big enough model for them, but they really care about accessibility. And so I think that if there's a solid accessibility argument that this was taken away, I think that I feel like something just went wrong there. Like, I don't know if there's some decision.
Explainable, but there's no excuse for not communicating about it, because especially because the accessibility community is so I don't want to say fragile, but they always think that they're on the edge of being canceled. That if there's ever any pressure, they'll be the first people thrown off the boat. And so they go to every update petrified that something that they depend on for literally life and limb is going to be taken away from them. And when it happens, you can't be silent about it. You've got to say, we're re-architecting. I know they don't want to, but they got to say, we're re-architecting this part of Siri. It destroyed all this stuff unintentionally. We're working really hard to, even if you do it like with accessibility community reporters, just
acknowledge it.
Help.
It's inexplicable to me. Yeah. But I agree. Apple. Not only is Apple in the hockey stick, but it's impressive as hell with what it's doing. And you did a piece. Now I want to know what you said. I haven't watched the video yet, Rene. M1 Pro versus Max. You did a piece on that. Yes. Tell me what your thinking is, because I shouldn't tell you what I decided, but I will. Okay. I got the M1 Pro because I don't think I need the GPUs in the Max, and I feel like I'm really happy with how fast it is.
Yeah. So my bottom line for it is, if you want battery life, get the M1 Pro and the 16-inch MacBook Pro, because it has the biggest battery and the lowest draw, and it's going to last you as long as is inhumanly possible. If you really care about speed, you want to get the M1 Max and the 16-inch, because it has double the rendering engines, double the GPUs, you can get much more RAM. And because the thermal envelope is bigger, not only will it sustain longer, but you can put it in high power mode, which just kicks on those fans, kicks on those CPUs, and you can get stuff done really, really fast. Now, if you do need something more portable, you can go for the 14-inch versions of either of those. You just know you're going to get a slightly smaller physical battery and a slightly smaller thermal envelope. But, if you're carrying it around all day, that might be a very small price to pay to get all of that, all of that power in a very small computer.
Yeah. So I think I made the right choice. Actually, I got the 14, not the 16. But
you'll know if you need the Max, Leo. I got it because I render every day and going twice as fast in rendering.
I told Henry
like Alex says
for his TikToks. Get the Max, because it's time is money. And if you're up at 1:40 in the morning rendering your TikTok video, you need a Max, basically.
Yeah.
So you can
every little step in between, it's just so much faster, and then you can do stuff. Again, it's so fast. I can make my thumbnail while I'm rendering the video, and I couldn't do that on Intel. It would just be so sluggish. It would be like it'd be a worse frame rate than I am right now.
Oh, that's it. That's actually interesting. So you can multitask because the machine is so powerful. You can let it do its rendering and continue to do your thumbnails and stuff.
Because the rendering,
really cool.
ProRes used to be CPU bound, and so it would really hit the CPU hard, and it couldn't do anything else. And now it's not touching the CPU or GPU at all. So I have a second computer that I can keep using while it's rendering. It's amazing.
Let's take a second little break. Come back with some tidbits, a little bit and this and that. I don't know if we've missed anything big. I guess we didn't go into what's new in Monterey 12.1 and iOS 15.2. We'll talk a little bit about that too when we come back. Rene, Ritchie, youtube.com/Rene Ritchie, Andy Ihnatko from Ihnatko.com and WGBH Boston, Alex Lindsay from officehours.global. Our show today brought to you by Wealthfront. I have this conversation with my kids all the time, but also with anybody, young people especially, because you can benefit from this most of all. My kids say, "Oh, should I buy this AMC stock? Should I get into Dogecoin?" And I say, "Look, it's fine to play and understand that you're playing, but if you want to build long-term wealth, if you want to save for college for your kids or your house, your first house, or for retirement, you should look at a Wealthfront investment account. Keep a little bit aside for your stonks and your diamond hands. That's fine. But Wealthfront is the way to really build wealth long-term. And they make it easy. They got the right tools for every portfolio. They just ask a couple of simple questions to get an idea of what you're saving for, your time frame, how risk tolerant you are. And then they will create just for you a globally diversified, low-cost portfolio based on low-cost index funds in minutes. You can build your own portfolio, too. They have clean energy funds. You want to get into crypto, they've got crypto trusts. They've got tech, hundreds of other investments. I really like the socially responsible portfolio they offer. It's a mix of funds built around human rights, climate change, sustainability, and diversity. You can put your money where your heart is and still build long-term wealth. And you don't have to sit and watch the indexes every day. There's no manual trading, no stock picking. They automatically handle all the investing. And they do things that, even fancy advisors don't do. Things like rebalancing your portfolio automatically so you're not too heavy into one area, or tax loss harvesting to lower your tax bill. It really works. It's just a great way to manage your goals for your future. Wealthfront's trusted with over $27 billion in assets. Nearly 500,000 people build their wealth at Wealthfront. Get your first $5,000 managed for free for life by going to wealthfront.com/MacBreak. It only takes $500 to open the account, and you can grow your wealth the easy way. Let Wealthfront do the work for you. To start building your wealth, to get the first $5,000 managed for free for life, go to wealthfront.com/MacBreak. WEALTHFRONT, wealthfront.com/MacBreak. Start building your portfolio today. The price is right. The technology is amazing. Wealthfront.com/MacBreak. Thank you, Wealthfront, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Thank you, dear listener and viewer, for supporting us by using that address. Wealthfront.com/MacBreak. Apple is launching support for keys in Apple Wallet. 6 Hyatt hotels, the first to support it. I like the idea of just using my watch to unlock the door. It'll be at the Hyatt Hawaii, the Andaz Maui and Wailea, Hyatt Centric Key West, Hyatt House Chicago, Hyatt House Dallas, Hyatt House Fremont, and in Silicon Valley, and Hyatt House Long Beach. So now, Alex, you never have to leave your Apple bathtub. You don't even have to carry a card key. Just
see. No Siri bubbles. Apple hot.
No, it's this is a great example of that, actually. Yeah.
They announced this a while ago, and it's just I was kind of years ago. I mean, they said this.
It's taken a while.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
And so you always every. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the original implementation was really different than this because they didn't have the same technologies with the original Apple Watch. So like Aloft implemented it, but you had to be within Bluetooth proximity. And then to prevent other doors from opening, you had to put the watch close enough to disrupt the magnetic field around the lock. And only when those two things were true would it actually unlock. But that was an implementation almost no hotel was interested in rolling out.
I would love to have my driver's license in my wallet as well. I mean, I have my COVID card in there, which is great. Washington, D.C. just voted to use Apple's wallet for their digital driver's licenses and IDs. I think that's great.
Did they vote on Apple's? I just saw that they were doing digital ones.
Mostly they amended their they amended their ID laws to say that a digital version of a digital version of an idea is acceptable, with the definition of what that digital ID is going to be, that remaining to be defined.
I'm gonna guess,
but that's a big deal.
It ain't going to be on Android. Maybe it will. I don't know.
Will it be on Android or Samsung?
Yeah, maybe Samsung. Yeah, I mean, I guess the 20 states that are now doing this, along with DC, I guess they could have their own state app, the Maryland driver's license app and so forth, that would work on Android.
I think DHS has, I believe it's DHS, but a federal agency has issued guidelines as to what they believe a digital ID should support and should ensue before a state should approve it. However, this is all due to the state, so this is going to be state by state by state before this comes true. We need a really good, solid standard that everybody can fall behind, because nobody wants to have to update a million different locks, a million different POS terminals before they know what is actually going to be required hardware-wise to make this sort of stuff work.
I have to say, I am pleased that Apple is making a brand new Android app.
Yay! messages.
No. AirTags and Find My Detector app for Android. And really, this is not because they want you to use AirTags necessarily. I don't think it'll even do that. But what it will do is identify nearby AirTags. And this is a privacy concern. If you have an iPhone, it says there's somebody got an AirTag near you that's not yours. You might want to check that out. But the complaint about that was, well, you have to have an iPhone for that. So Tracker Detect will help anybody who is not in the warm bath of the Apple ecosystem to identify unexpected AirTags.
Yeah.
I like that phrase.
Yeah, exactly. Surprise AirTags.
Surprise AirTags.
We all like surprises.
Congratulations, you got a surprise AirTag.
We're talking about that story in Ontario about a car theft ring that was basically sticking AirTags on cars. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised Apple didn't think of this to begin with. The idea that, and don't worry, we will protect the safety and security of all the Apple people, Android users, buy an iPhone. And you'll be safe. It's like, oh dear, that seems like
it was supposed to chirp because also some people still use flip phones. I know it's impossible to believe, but it doesn't seem it was supposed to chirp. It does for me. Like every time I get in my car, it chirps, and it's so annoying. And I don't know why it does it, but I'll get in my car probably because I don't drive enough anymore. It's like 3 days have passed, and it's going to chirp now.
It's unpredictable. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it annoys the hell out of you. When I was in Mexico, every time I left I put an AirTag in my luggage. Every time I left my hotel room.
Yeah.
Hey, you left your luggage behind. Yes, I know. Thank you.
You left your car in the driveway. Really?
Really?
Yeah.
I always think I have so many devices that I'm leaving behind. And I'm always fun. What I think funny is it always picks one. Oh, by the way, you left your other phone. Yeah. I was like, okay, what about the iPad and all the other things that were all the headsets? But it'll pick a different one all the time. Like, by the way, you left your headset back there, but not the phone that I left the first time. So.
I mean, the thought is nice, right? You don't want to leave. It's nice.
It's the thought
it's the thought that counts. Here's I'm running this on the Pixel 6. It's hard to find. I have to say that's Android's search in the App Store. But if you search, actually what I would do is search for Apple apps and you'll find it there. So Tracker Detect looks for tracker items that are separated from their owner and are compatible with Apple's Find My network. If you think someone's using AirTag or another device to track your location, you can scan and try to find it. Let's press the scan button, see what comes up. Did I allow it? Oh, scanning, scanning. There's at least one tracker next to me. It's on my keys. Okay, well, this is only a couple hours show, so we'll get back to scanning a little later in the show. Scanning. Oh my God.
There was an episode of Linus Tech Tips where one of his employees put an Apple tag in him to track him, and he found it in his pocket and he just put it down, didn't even think about it, just assumed his kids found it on a desk somewhere and stuck it in his pants while he wasn't wearing them. And so it just shows that nobody's really that security conscious.
Nobody cares. Let's talk about the new iOS 15.2. Of course, I think most Apple people are this way. Whenever there's an update, I do it. I just jump into it fearlessly. Perhaps that's not the best attitude, but so far it's worked. What's new in iOS 15.2? We got the music voice plan.
Yep.
Which is a cheap way to use Apple Music, right? With
especially if you're not all in. Like if you, sorry, go ahead.
You don't get the app. You don't get you only get through the voice interface. So it's great if you bought one of those cheap HomePods after they discontinued them. But okay,
the big HomePods were discontinued. The little ones are the minis are still out, right?
Yep.
Oh
yes.
God,
and they're in colors now, Leo.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're in colors. Just Ask Siri suggests music based on your listening history, likes or dislikes. Play It Again lets you access your list of recently played music. What is it, $5? Oh, by the way,
you can see where Apple's put their effort in this too, because if you say like play the opera by Ihnatko and it's not in your library, it'll say, oh, the opera by Ihnatko is not in your library. Would you like to have a free trial of Apple Music voice plan? And then like you immediately get your Ihnatko opera, you get your free trial. And like it's the smoothest conversion thing I have ever seen.
So by the way, it found no trackers, even though there's one right here. Right here. Right here. It even says Leo on it. Okay. So, if somebody were,
if Lisa was tracking you right now.
If somebody were stalking me, I'll keep scanning and we'll see. Privacy, Apple's privacy report now is in settings, which I think is a good thing to do. To see how often apps, this is maybe the tamping down you were talking about, Alex. If apps have how often they've accessed location, photos, camera, microphone, contacts, and more during the last 7 days. I think that's very, very, very valuable, very useful.
And you can see some of that also. I think as a developer, I think some of us got updates of the terms of service, and there's definitely, you can just see all these little screws getting turned.
Yep.
So the app, again, I think it's just you don't tighten them all at one time. You just keep tightening it, you just slowly moving around. Just
boil the frog, baby. Boil the frog.
Yep.
Messages will now, if you're a parent and you turn it on, let you know that your kids are looking at nudies.
It won't let you know anymore, but it'll give the kid 3 chances to do what's right.
Oh, it doesn't tell the parent?
No, they turned off the title feature because they were afraid that it would out people in conditions where they had abusive parents.
Oh, yeah. So, but it does give parents the ability to enable warnings for children.
Yes.
So parents have to turn it on, and then the kids get, now, Johnny. Yeah.
It won't tattletale anymore.
You don't really want to see naked butts, do you?
But that's valuable. Sometimes maybe their friends are going to send them something that they don't know what's coming, and so that's
well.
valuable.
It's also it could be a bullying thing as well. You could send it to somebody else who doesn't want to get that kind of
I don't want it.
There was legitimately a bunch of people, predominantly women, on Twitter when this feature was announcing. Why can't we adults have it? You have no idea what we go through on a daily basis across all of our messaging.
You know what?
apps.
That's actually a very good point. All they need is a hot dog or not hot dog detector.
Yes,
if you know what I mean. And that would be very useful for everybody.
I don't want to get too deep into this, but there's a brilliant video by Alana Pierce. Used to be a really well-known games journalist. Now she works for Santa Monica Studios, where she got so upset that she would just keep a directory of the images and then always send back one that was slightly larger, because that would aggravate people so much they never send messages again. A slightly bigger hot dog.
There's always
whatever you sent her.
Something I've learned in my life. There's always a bigger hot dog.
Yeah, and she said they just couldn't handle that, and she felt like a moment of redemption.
No, that's brilliant.
But it'd be way better if it just filtered that out.
There is, in my favorite TV show, Succession, a wonderful incident around that it's just very, very funny. If you aren't watching that TV show, you really ought to. It's very good. Okay, so we'll call it the Hot Dog Not Hot Dog app. Siri and Search expanded guidance in Siri Spotlight and Safari Search to help children and parents stay safe online and get help with unsafe situations. How does it do that? We don't know.
Yeah, it pops up if you do a search for a term that it's a problematic term, basically something that involves abusive stuff. It'll pop up and say, would you like to be explained this? Would you like information on this? Would you like to contact somebody? Yeah. Here are resources that you can go to.
Yeah. They've turned on digital legacy, which is really, really good for people my age. Lets you designate somebody as a legacy contact so they can access your iCloud account and information in the event of your untimely passing, because all passings are untimely. That's a good thing.
Not your iTunes library, though.
No.
No one gets your iTunes library.
And I presume if you had iBooks, you probably wouldn't get to pass those along, or iTunes.
No, because remember, you spent $23 on a movie that you don't actually own. You just bought a license.
You licensed it.
Yeah. But your personal stuff, which
exactly photos, contacts, financial,
that's good.
The docs, just presented. The proof of death has to be presented, but yeah, absolutely.
The switch that we talked about, the Marquez Brownlee switch, they're calling it, that lets you turn off macro mode if you don't like that annoying switch.
Yeah.
Just stop me if they.
Does that mean that you can now manually choose which macro mode you're in?
Yes, you have a little flower icon that you press to put into macro mode. Now it doesn't do it automatically on proximity anymore.
It was switching lenses, and it was bugging people.
I have to admit, I got this nasty little splinter in my foot, and I literally used the macro mode.
Perfect.
I did a macro mode, and then I wired it to my big TV. So I had this super close-up view of the bottom of my foot. I put it on a tripod and I set this whole thing up with big lights and everything else because I had to get it out. Like it was really.
So
were
you doing like you were doing microsurgery kind of?
Yeah, I was totally doing microsurgery with my. I had this little needle and I had a.
I can't believe you didn't have video of this. I would like to see that.
I should have. I don't know if anyone else wants to see it.
Office hours. Focus on Alex's feet.
I was like, all I can say is it worked really, really well. Like it totally, because I was like literally looking at like 1 centimeter of my foot while I was working on it. And so number one is it worked really well. And number two is I really need to exfoliate more. So
next,
a lot of
next stage. But maybe you could do a little brain surgery on yourself, something like that.
I think I could. I think now that I understand how the macro works, brain surgery is next. It's absolutely.
And you really don't, while you're doing brain surgery, want it to flip back and forth between the wide and the telephoto.
And by the way, I didn't have to wire it. All I had to do is share it. I shared it. I just shared it to the screen.
Yeah.
So I just had it, and so I just shared my phone to the AirPlay to the screen, and then I just had this, and I got into macro. But I will say the one problem was I kept on changing the macro mode, and so you had to kind of get my foot in just the right place.
That's right.
Well,
now you have a switch.
That's why it came up. That was my one problem.
You can use the magnifier in accessibility. It does a really good job too. But I was originally against this because I loved how automatic it was, and then Ray Wong pointed out that yes, but I want to take a photo where the object in front is blurred out, is bokeh, and the object in back is in focus, and you can't do that anymore. And I was like, oh yeah, way smarter than me.
It's good to have stuff that's got switches. It's good. It's good. The TV app has changed. The store tab lets you browse, buy, and rent movies and TV shows all in one place. Okay.
Some people were complaining that there was 8 tabs for the store essentially before. Yeah. Like you had basically what was new and then 8 versions of the store tab.
Yeah.
And now they've simplified it because there really is just the store and it's the what's new and the search tab. So it's simpler.
I have to say, I was asking a friend of mine if he's got 5 kids if they are into the Charlie Brown Christmas, and he said I can't find it anymore. Where'd it go? And I had to tell him. It's in the Apple.
It's gone to Cupertino.
It's gone to Cupertino. Santa
has
moved. Charlie and the company have moved to Cupertino.
See that big bag Santa's holding? It's a bag of cash.
They did. I mean, to their credit, I don't think anybody can figure out how to watch broadcast TV anymore. But if you know what day and time it is on public television, you can watch it.
I would never know when that is.
But how would you know?
All I know is that I don't even know. Like in YouTube TV, I kind of go in and for most things I just select everything. I have so many things selected that there's just so much content. I guess, and I think that this is I don't know if this is a problem for everybody, but for me, I'm so far behind in content all the time. Like there are so many things I want to watch that if something that isn't like right
in
down
front
the middle,
of you, I agree.
I'm not but also or exactly what I want. Like I feel like there's 1,000 other things for me to be watching, that I have on my playlist, like my YouTube playlist right now, just YouTube, not YouTube TV. My YouTube playlist is like 30 hours deep, and I just finally made it through what it was, the cinematic sound or whatever. Yeah. Last night, but that took me a week.
So as a public service to all the people who love Charlie Brown Christmas, December 19th, 7:30 p.m. on PBS. That's your one shot. Of course, you could set up a trial on Apple TV and watch it. You get a 7-day trial.
Charlie Brown, otherwise known as Curb Your Enthusiasm for Kids.
Yes. I was watching it because I love it. I love the. You know what I really love is the Vince Guaraldi music. It's so good. But I was watching and I realized I don't know why I never thought of this when I was a kid. I guess I just thought, oh, it's Charlie Brown, but it's really just a bunch of static comic strips rendered into animation. So there's setup, punchline, setup, punchline, setup, punchline all the way through. And then Lucy goes, or Charlie goes, and then the next one. So it's really kind of, it's a little bit dated, I have to say.
Well, I would say classic. I'm glad that it's contemplative, it's meditative, it's thoughtful, as opposed to like we got to have 3 action sequences and Tony Stark has to be responsible for 2 of them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is a much more leisurely pace. There's a lot of pauses and dead air. By the way, I'm reading this on
expectations.
I'm reading this.
It's got to subvert expectations.
I'm reading this on masslive.com, and it says locally, Massachusetts viewers can tune in on GBH to catch PBS specials. So there you go. That's for you, Andrew. Nice.
Thank you for your donation, for your support. We bring you the Charlie Brown special.
By viewers like you.
You'll have to bring your own Dolly Madison snack cakes.
Oh man, that's the one thing missing from the Apple TV version.
Yeah,
and I presume the PBS version.
Hostess bought apparently Dolly Madison, and they make zingers now, and so only like in my adult life was I able to live out the fantasy that I had as a child. Say, oh well, geez, we can't. Why do they keep saying Dolly Madison zingers? I've never seen a zinger. Have you ever seen a zinger? No, we don't have a zinger. Thanks to the hostess antitrust case, we now can have Dolly Madison singers.
Sometimes the good guys do win.
Yes.
Let me just play a little of this for those of you who won't be seeing it in your Charlie Brown.
I've got a treat that's heavenly like me. Dolly Madison cupcakes. They're more like me because they're devilishly delicious devil's fruit cake. But it has dreamy cream filling. That's goodness, like me. Look at this tempting chocolate ice. But it has angel writing on it. See? Right, they're more like you. But I have more of them. You devil, you. Dolly Madison cupcakes. Devil's delight.
I think that was probably shown on the It's the Great Pumpkin.
Oh God!
Rather than
that kid went places. I want to know what happened to him. He made a meal out of that role, and he did a great job.
He really did. I wonder if he went on to great things. You can actually watch the YouTube also has the one with the Peanuts gang in it. Here we go.
The Zinger Zapper is someone in this room. To find the culprit, I'll put zingers on this plate.
This is when zingers came along.
Chocolate icing, gold
Which
cake with dreamy vanilla.
They used to have a stripe of frosting on the top.
They look just like Hostess cupcakes and Twinkies. So, I guess it's
Excuse
good.
Me. There are no raspberry coconut Twinkies, and the world is the poorer for it. See, it's the competition that led to innovation within the snack cake industry.
There are improvements even in CarPlay. Enhanced city map. I actually really like this with road details like turn lanes, medians, bike lanes. Thank you. Crosswalks, but it's only in supported cities. It's not yet in Petaluma.
The details gotten really good. Like I was just looking around my neighborhood, and it was like I felt almost bad about it because I could see way too much detail, like the surface of the pool and where the cars were placed. I'm just like, it's a little too intimate at this point.
Bunch of other little minor things. I imagine there besides feature additions, there are bug fixes and security fixes. I'll leave it to you to do the research. Even the tvOS was updated. Everything's 15.2. Got the watch update, all of that. So the new stuff is here. Adobe has launched a version of its Creative Cloud that's free, Creative Cloud Express, which really mostly looks like a bunch of templates. There are paid templates and free templates.
It looks like a thing for creating memes, for creating Instagram posts. It's nice. I mean, we as a kid, I had Print Shop, in which we had our own print out. We'd print on a Panasonic 1080i printer, but Okay.
Yeah.
It's just not great.
Quickly and easily make standout content from thousands of beautiful templates. I guess that's what people want, though, right? They just want templates.
Get the thing out, get it done.
Just get it done. Web, it's also available on mobile. I mean, web as well as on mobile. And I think it's also available on Microsoft's App Store. So pretty much everywhere you can get your apps.
It's a big improvement over people trying to handwrite their signs or do them, do them horribly in something.
Yeah.
Like, at first when I saw it, I was like, really? Like, I was same thing that Andy had. I was like, really? But then I watched my wife put together our Christmas cards with some template from Walgreens. It just, she threw it together. She doesn't want to spend a lot of time on it. I wasn't willing to spend any time on it. And so it went out and it looks fine. No one's going to win any awards, but it's better than her trying to.
Better than handmade.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Well, it's better than doing something digital that's kind of janky that doesn't really work. I mean, handmade, like crafted would be better, but as far as something
ain't nobody got time for that.
Like when Kevin Smith goes and protests his own movies, you got to make sparkles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like cooked bread is great, but sometimes the best thing someone can do is get a bread maker, or just buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
So they may not be able to make it.
It's just better than nothing. Yeah,
exactly. Or bad.
They should definitely release a companion app because Adobe products serve the creative community. A companion app is a phone app. You scan this thing that you just paid somebody $180 to design for you. Say, hey, wait a minute, you made this with a template with that free Photoshop app. You didn't hire a real design professional for this.
Well, how many of us have watched? I mean, I don't know if I know the Apple Music library really well. All the loops, and so I can tell. Like, I can immediately hear it in a commercial. Like, oh, they're using the Apple loop. That's an Apple loop. That's an Apple loop.
Yeah, most people don't know that. Right.
Exactly.
These are actually not. These are not bad. These templates. There's you can easily. They're professionally designed. Right. Meal delivery, free. And it's for small businesses and people like you.
Totally, that stuff can totally work. Yeah.
I'm just always a little bit disappointed when I get my pizza box and it says your neighborhood pizza place made this hot and fresh for you. Oh, and what would the name of that place be? Your thanks for buying local. Like I know they buy these in bulk, but it's like I would much rather have just a blank. I'd much rather have like the generic, chef, stereotypical Italian chef's kiss guy rather than try to make me think that this is a custom printed thing.
This is cool. They have animated ones too for your Instagram. So here's a study tip. I can modify that and make it.
And when you look at this, a lot of these are the kind of thing with TikTok that people are using the filters or they're using some kind of overlay.
I recognize a lot of the TikTok stuff now. This is at least giving you a whole bunch of new things.
Yeah.
A lot of the iMovie and Final Cut stuff too.
Yeah,
people use templates because they're easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is how it's not just presentation; it really is communication at this point. Where so when you have private reels, it's like this is how you talk to your 24 friends that are close enough that you're going to share like 8 different moments during the day, and you want to even there if you want to present like a really cool like here's exactly what I'm trying to tell you, as opposed to oh no, this is not worth finding my stylus for. I'm just going to tap something into a template.
And it's fun when the government does illegal stuff in Comic Sans in a PowerPoint template. I mean, that's always the best. Like you get to see a military document that gets leaked or NSA something, and it's in Comic Sans, and
it was meant to be ironic.
Nothing better than the use of ironic Comic Sans.
Well, the funny thing is that you think about like templates, but there's like 8 GIFs that I use probably at least once a week. And they're not. I don't go out and shoot my own video to do the meme. I just really like that meme.
I just made this while you were talking. I made my new MacBreak Weekly. It's not just about the Nutella. How about that? You like that?
It's not about the Nutella.
It's not about the Nutella at all.
Okay. It's not about the Nutella.
Yeah.
It's not about the Nutella.
Hot dog or not hot dog. Nutella.
That would not be a good show title. I'm just saying it ahead. If I have a vote, I'm not insisting that I do.
Yeah, that would not be a good show
one. How about not?
How did we get into this? People are listening, just going, "What is going on?"
No, they're not. They know. Anyway, I think this is nice, and that was completely free. I didn't pay for it. Creative Cloud Express.
People didn't ruin our emojis. We have these innocent little emojis, and humanity keeps ruining them.
Why can't an eggplant just be an eggplant?
I know.
Oh.
I don't even know what the kids do anymore. Like the kids are way too advanced for me. I find out like once in a while there's an article about what these emoji really mean, and I'm flabbergasted. Like I did not use it with that intent.
macOS Monterey 12.1, share, as you mentioned. SharePlay just in time for the holidays. We can watch Charlie Brown together.
SharePlay now is like a little bit like it's a little bit much like to go through all that. Like it's fun and it's great and it would have been great during the pandemic. But I can't wait till that's part of Apple's VR helmet and like we can just be sitting there going, Alex, you want to watch the new Iron Man 5 with me? Yeah, sure. We press.
Oh, that's you know what that is a trope in a lot of science fiction, and I think I can give credit to Amy Webb, our futurist, for coming up with that. You see this now in a lot of shows where they say, "Let me just throw you that data or throw you that video." And
like with a zoom,
it squirts and it comes in on your regular everyday spectacles. I think that will be the future. I think you're right.
I'm going to splatter you a movie, Alex. Andy, I'm going to splatter you a movie.
I just think of scale. You know, like I was just like 32 is cute. Up to 32 is cute. But I was like, what if you could, you know, basically build a virtual theater for a lot of people to watch it?
That's an interesting idea.
So I'm just like, so I immediately went like,
surely there are tools
using
that will
Netflix
do that.
Party.
Yeah.
No, there is not.
No,
32 is a tenth of an office hours, Leo.
Yeah.
We used Netflix Party to do about 90, and the problem with Netflix Party is that it's too chatty. So it needs to be a different kind of architecture to make that work. But you know, I was thinking, you know, what if you had 2,000 people watching together and then being able to text back and forth and discuss things? It wouldn't be the first time you watch the movie, but it might be like, oh, we've all watched it, now let's watch it together and talk about it.
Yeah, the bad thing about SharePlay is that it ducks the movie if somebody talks, and like that is a huge problem. Like I don't know about your family and friends, but like the kids now put on subtitles because they can't stand the adults talking over the show all the time.
See, I just put subtitles on.
Will you be quiet?
I just put the subtitles on because I like Christopher Nolan movies, and I'd really like to know what was actually happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not that I'm bitter.
No, but you're right. It is a lot. There's a lot of possibility there. Roger Ebert used to do like multiple times a year, but always at the Conference on World Affairs in the University of Colorado, what he called Cinema Interruptus, where he would put on like Citizen Kane or whatever the movie was chosen for the year. The first night, like 1,000 people in that auditorium would just watch it. And then over the next 4 nights, they would play it again. But anytime somebody had a question or a comment, they could just shout out, stop, and then make that comment or question. And then everybody in the room would discuss it, and Roger would discuss it. And it was a great immersive experience.
Especially with Roger Ebert. That would be amazing.
It was amazing. The only problem with that, it became like around day 3 when everybody's really loosened up. And it would be like, stop. Roger, I once took a film studies class 18 years ago, and I would like to demonstrate that in front of my favorite movie critic.
Hate that.
Yeah, it's like
no.
But he was always very, very kind.
When I was in college, the Film Society, filmmakers would come, pretty big filmmakers would come with their film and then answer questions. I always loved that. That was really cool.
Yeah.
That was
you could do that.
You could these choices,
Yeah.
You could do that, you know, with that. And the key is that you wouldn't be breaking any copyright laws. We've been trying, literally, so the first time we actually did this was with Pixel Core 20 years ago with a DVD.
But you broke copyright laws,
No, we didn't. We didn't break any copyright laws. We said, okay, everyone start your DVD.
Start The Wizard of Oz.
It was Star Wars.
Dark Side of the Moon at the same time. Well, we'll all do this together. Yeah.
It was like I just walked everybody through Star Wars. And so, you know, the one that I worked on. So I was just like,
start all
to hit play.
There we go. Yeah.
And then we talk, but the key is that you could do it so much bigger, and the company to do it is Apple.
Is the problem, because
you could,
but everybody have to start at the same time.
No. But that's why the Netflix Party / whatever would be better.
Yeah,
is to be able to scale this up. And the thing that Apple could do that no one else can do is build it into the player architecture for anybody building an app for Apple, so that anybody could do it, not just Apple TV. That any like Netflix or whatever.
Out with it.
Is TikTok doing it?
There are a bunch of them. Yeah, TikTok. YouTube hasn't said anything yet, but TikTok launched with it and a bunch of other apps. Now, what would be really smart is if you could independently pause it, and then it would slowly increase the speed when you unpause it to catch you up with everybody. It would be like imperceptibly faster until you return.
Rene Ritchie's audio today. It'll be great.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm teasing it. This is completely tangential, but you mentioned Christopher Nolan and using subtitles, as more and more of us do these days. And I thought it's just because I'm getting old, but Slash Film had a great article Thanks, Ben Pearson. Here's why movie dialogue has gotten more difficult to understand. And then he has 3 proposals, but it's a lot of different things. One, there's Mr. Nolan himself, and it's a purposeful choice in his part. You know, who started this is Robert Altman with Nashville and Cabe and Mrs. Miller. He said this is not, you can't hear everybody. You got to overlap MASH. Remember MASH? All that overlapping
That's
dialogue.
why I go to movies, though.
I want to. Well, he also says, Pearson says, it's the acting. You got to, Christopher Nolan saying, well, Bane's wearing a mask, so you can't understand him. But actors are also mumbling more. And he says partly this is...
that Bane is not realistic to begin with, Leo. So just do that for me. Make him intelligible.
He should have a better speaker in his mask. They also say somewhat of it is the problem that the recordist either doesn't have enough status to say, I didn't get that stop. Could stop mumbling, or that the recordist just isn't respected on the set and is ignored.
Directors don't care, yeah, they
don't care. We're moving on. We'll fix it in post.
That's pretty simplistic view of it. I mean, the recordist, if you don't record it on site and you can't understand it, you use ADR. And ADR is like for most movies, not all movies, but for most movies, ADR is like 50%, 60%.
I had a sound guy call the radio show and I was talking about this. He does ADR. It's exactly what he says. That's where you go back, get the actors in, and you re-record the track. Obviously, that costs money, and it's not.
Yeah, but for a big film, when we're talking about big films,
you're going to do it anyway.
It's a lot of money. It's not a big percentage of money, like compared to what everything that they do to do those things.
It's like the sound effects and music are so loud and the talking is so quiet.
And that's another thing Ben Pearson brings up. By the way, if it's simplistic, it's because I have simplified his arguments. Yeah, he goes into many more words about all this. He says part is also technology. He interviewed a lot of sound people, some of them who wanted to be anonymous. One high-profile sound professional who wishes to remain anonymous points to the evolution of technology as an ingredient. The reason people don't remember having these same audio issues with older films is that we have more tracks to play with, more options. Therefore, more expected and asked from the sound editors. He says if you listen to 4 Weddings and a Funeral, you'll hear every word because the sound was cut on film back then.
Well, and also there's a lot of mixers that a lot of them are experimenting with where they put voices in the channels. Yeah. And so if you don't put it in the center channel, if you don't drop it, so the problem is that a lot of us now have surround. We have sound bars, or we have some version of 5.1 or 7.1 or whatever, or it could even be that folded into stereo. And the problem is they start doing things like, we want to put it in the left and right channel rather than down the center, and that creates a really muddy track. And what's interesting about it is that now there are some movies like we thought about seeing James Bond in the theater, but there was a bunch of comments about not being able to understand what people were saying. So we're like, we'll just wait until it's at home.
Because we could turn on the center channel. Yeah.
No. So we could turn on the captions. I can just turn the captions on. So I was like, so like we were like, if there's any review that says this is hard to understand, that means watch it at home. Yeah. For a lot of people now.
Well, and that's another thing he says is that, sometimes they're mixed on a sound stage, but then you get it to the multiplex and it sounds like crap. Maybe your home theater is better.
That's true.
Yeah. There's a lot. This is a really, really very good article talking about all of the things. Because I've just basically said, the shorthand is, they're mixing for 7.1, and if you don't have a good sound system, you're going to miss some of it. Turn up your center channel.
You're missing the one, and it's the dialogue.
You're missing
track.
the one, so turn up the center channel. If
no dialogue for you.
No dialogue, and I have to say, more and more people are watching the closed captions, which is going to hurt the movie theaters because you don't have them there, right?
I've heard that people like it for the same reason that people like text on YouTube, is that it forces a level of attention that's not always otherwise handed over. So like you might be, if you're listening to it, you might be moving around, doing a bunch of things, looking at your phone. But the minute you can't hear something or you see text on screen, you stop and you start reading it. And that locks you into that experience. And so they're super happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good, I thought, piece, and it doesn't have anything to do with Apple or Macs, but I know you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, especially Alex. Ben Pearson.
Some of that Paul Greengrass stuff, we need descriptive audio as well, because I can't tell what's happening in those fight scenes anymore.
Those fight scenes are very
so muddy edited.
That's my problem. That's one of my problems with Marvel movies. It's just like, oh god, it's just going to be there's a corner of the screen that doesn't have some crap in it. For God's sakes, put some more CGI crap in there.
Right.
It's like, okay, whatever.
Right. XCode 13.2 also came out. Now, this is always my gripe, that it's relatively quick to get, the latest OS 10 or OS 11, but then then it's so long to update XCode. And yes, there's a new XCode. And according to 9 to 5 Mac, Felipe Esposito hints at upcoming Swift Playgrounds 4 release. We've been talking about that. I'm very excited about Playgrounds 4. It's not in there yet, but I guess there's features in the XCode. The app's release notes say it adds compatibility with projects created with Swift's Playgrounds 4. So it must mean we're getting close. Yeah? I hope.
Well, it doesn't say spring on the website, so that's a good sign.
It'll all be here in spring. Just be patient.
I went and looked. As soon as that happened, I went and looked through the rest of the features just to make sure the word spring wasn't liberally sprinkled around anything
coming
else.
In the spring. Everything's in the spring.
Spring is coming.
Spring is coming.
Game of Thrones, the sequel. Spring is coming.
That would be a much lighter Game of Thrones.
The Targaryens. I think the spinoff is the Targaryens, right? Which is not going to be any lighter or more amusing.
Oh God. Yeah, that's the dragon folk, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's take one more break, and then your picks of the week, if you would. Prepare them, tune them up, polish them up. But first, a word from our sponsor, AT&T Active Armor. Now, I know how it is. You spent the day staring at your phone, waiting for that one call. You're waiting to hear about the job, right? Or, I hope it's not the hospital, maybe the family saying we're coming or not. And it finally rings, and what is it? Your car warranty is about to run out. I got one the other day that said, you've been approved for financial aid. Well, that's good. I must be going back to school. Look, the last thing you want when you're waiting for an important call or just want to, play words with friends on your phone is a spam call. Don't let fraud calls disappoint you. AT&T makes your security a top priority, helping block fraud calls with AT&T's Active Armor. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor 24/7, proactive network security, fraud call blocking, and spam notifications to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. And now, Rene Ritchie with his pick of the week.
So I've made it a habit on this show of picking what I think are really interesting creator-driven projects. And this might be the most interesting one ever because Justine Azaric, iJustine, has now got her own lightsaber, which is just the most fantastic thing. Well, so she's been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It looks so good.
She's been training Filipino Eskrima.
Look at her. Oh, man.
On stick fighting. She's knife fighting. And now she's weaponized her talents into merchandise. And what I love is that she didn't just make a lightsaber. She thought about the practicality of using it for things like
combat grade lightsaber.
Hey guys.
Yeah, and it's got things to protect your hands. Like it's made from a person who understands the basics of weapon craft too, which to me is again endlessly fascinating. And she is really good with this stuff. It turns out, those boxes, those next unboxings, they have no chance. They used to have a 1 in 10 chance they could get away from her. She's just going to murderate those boxes from now on.
So, these aren't inexpensive, $400 to $500. No. It comes with a standard combat grade 36-inch blade and saber sport bag. Now, the blade is not a sword blade. Is it a glass tube? Because I wouldn't want to hit anybody.
Yeah, well, it's got a light thing in it, but it's not like a laser sword. You're not going to you're not going to kill people. You can bludgeon them pretty good, I imagine.
It's more for show.
A glass puncher or two, but
the options can also come, she says, with a Saberation exclusive Imperial Ripper blade. That's also black and silver. That's when you get to $522.
Yeah,
that's wow. These are beautiful. I think you're going to put them on the wall, though, right? You're not going to go
after you watch her videos.
You might want to go.
Yeah, you're going to want to go out there and spin them. And she put up a video too, whether she's actually using them. And they look like so much fun.
Wow.
When I used to do wushu a long time ago, I did spear and double blades. And once you get into it, of course, no one's really using them for combat anymore, but they're just really good exercise, really fun, a lot of coordination, a lot of cardio. And
you could use this for practice, right?
About your fantasies.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to be a Jedi?
And all Pixels and Pixel Blades come with a 1-year warranty. I bet Darth Maul couldn't say that.
No, Darth Maul
wouldn't live long enough to use it.
I just, the funny thing was is that I wanted to go get one. I mean, I'm going to go back and order one, but I wanted to go get one, but she took the whole site down. Like it
crashed.
She put it up and the whole thing was like just gone. Like it was, you forget.
I wish I could say we just took the site down, but it's pretty easy to get into. So go on
exactly.
in. And,
well, I think
give us some time, Leo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's VIP access to the IJ Army Base Camp community. If you want to become a cadet,
a Padawan
learner. Wow, this is cool. Very nice. They actually make other stuff too, but now they have an IJ version. So that's got to be better.
And now she has a lightsaber.
Look at her. That's hysterical.
She's so happy.
Now I have a lightsaber.
The picture on the front's the best. I love that right at the top.
And you wonder what Jenna's doing. She's going, Justine, put down the lightsaber. We have Lego to finish.
Little did you know, Alex Lindsay, when you ran into Justina Zarek at a WordPress camp in Pittsburgh?
It was an what was it called? Uncamp or something like that. Yeah. Unconference. That's what it was. It was the podcast Unconference in Pittsburgh.
And what was she doing? She was just there saying,
She was there asking a lot of questions. It was funny. I was teaching, I was talking about podcasting. I was also talking about green screen. And the person with all the questions was Justine. I mean, she just had, and it wasn't like she was peppering me with useless questions. It was all like, she was really thinking. I remember I called Leo and I was like, okay, we found someone.
Yeah, I remember.
It was just like this is
away.
From the first moment, I was like, she's gonna go big. And we got her. She was in early MacBreaks. Yeah,
that was like what was 15, 20 years, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, like 15 years ago.
And she still looks like she's 28. I don't understand how she's doing.
She hasn't changed
what happened to the rest of us? We're the paintings in the attic.
ImperialSabers.com/product/IJ. Alex Lindsay, your pick of the week.
We've got two quick ones. One is that we were because we were talking about audio, Making Waves, which is about cinematic sound. I think it comes with the YouTube subscription. I never know what's free and what isn't free, but it's free for me anyways. But it's about cinematic sound. A great walkthrough of the history of cinematic sound, as well as really telling you all the things that happen and how it gets put together in like an hour, an hour and a half or whatever. Really, really great. It's got Ben Burt and Walter Murch and a lot of other folks that are talking about it. A lot of the best, some of the top, Gary Rydstrom, a lot of the top folks talking about how they got into it and what it looked like and what happened. And then it breaks down like how each part, there's basically 7 components to a sound design for a modern movie, and it kind of breaks down what those are for you, so you really understand because there's oftentimes different people working on each section of that, and so it's really good. And then the other thing that I chose also Zbrush, which is just got bought by Maxon today. So it's mostly that incredible application. It's been around for a long time. A lot of us have used it for cleaning up our models.
One of the oldest tools, right, for this stuff?
Definitely for what it does, which is painting in 3D. So basically what it lets you do is paint models in 3D, like make models from 3D or take your existing models and paint them. And literally, when I say paint them, I don't mean paint textures onto them. You can do that, but really create new models and merge them and blur them and push them around and everything else in 3D. It's the most powerful app in that area. And it just got bought by Maxon, which has been they picked up Redshift and Red Giant. And there's a lot of, they're picking up a lot of stuff. They're picking up speed, I think. And, but a really, really great complementary thing to what Maxon's already doing. And it's so it's exciting to see. It'll be exciting to see what happens, but it wasn't something that's really as Mac-breaky, but I think it's important for people to know that it's happening. It's for folks in our industry. It's
ZBrush has been around forever, since 1997. I mean, this is one of the venerable tools in your toolkit. So.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that, some of it comes to, the fact that they're owned by Maxon will. The interface was always built for a different kind of artist, like when it started. And so it has this roots of a very odd way of approaching modeling, which takes a long time to get your head around. But so it'll be interesting to see if they make that a little bit more standard. Leave it probably the way it is, but take some of that technology and put it into Cinema 4D. It'd be really interesting.
I think you did some ZBrush demos back in Call for Help days, I believe.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. It's really, really powerful. Yeah, I mean, it was, we definitely talked about it because there's just one. There's been a lot of other apps that are kind of in the Forger, and there's lots of other little apps that have done that. But this one is has always been the most popular one to do it in.
Dwindle in our IRC says he's a ZBrush artist. He will miss. I don't know if they're going away, but he says the lifetime free upgrades will be missed. I don't know if that means Maxon will be killing those.
No idea.
Not. We don't know yet. But things like that do go away. It's not unusual.
Yeah, exactly.
Lifetime
might be why they're selling.
Yeah, right.
So you know,
might have something to do with that.
They're like, maybe that didn't turn out so well.
Yeah.
So,
and this book, this documentary you're talking about, 90-minute documentary, Making Waves: The Art of Cinematic Sound, is. I'm getting it for free because I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber. So I think.
Yeah, so am I. So that's why I couldn't remember whether it was.
I think that's right. It's a YouTube movies and shows, so I guess if you're not a subscriber, you might have to pay for it. But
it's just an incredible collection.
I'm going to watch it tonight. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's really good. And I will admit I'm a fiend for that kind of movie. It's like 80% of what I watch. So.
Yeah. How stuff is done. Because that's what you're into, man, doing stuff.
I like that.
Me, I just want to sit back and watch. I like to watch. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week.
Actually, mine is the 2021 app of the year, according to the App Store. It's an interesting notes / idea processor / word processor called oops, sorry.
Craft.
Thank you very much. I accidentally tabbed out of the notes.
Craft.do is the website.
Yes.
And we did talk about this last week. So did you play with it after we talked about it last week? Or
Yes, I'm sorry. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I started playing with it last week, and I just wanted to add some of my own notes to it. I thought that it's a nice hybrid between two different project writing management kind of apps I like. I'm still using Scrivener for my work. I've been using it for 10 years, whatever, because it's just a powerhouse for organizing a book, for starting out with notes and developing it, adding research. One of my Scrivener docs is truly gigabytes in size because it incorporates PDFs, incorporates a million pictures and stuff like that. It's like a 10-year-old research project. The other app that I tend to use is Ulysses for the opposite reason. It really is just a structured sort of text editor where you can have folders with text docs inside them. Use that to sort of organize your thoughts and basically take down a big project chunk by chunk by chunk. It's not as powerful as Scrivener, but unlike Scrivener, it's a very, very simple file structure, so it's very, very easy to sync data across different devices. What I'm liking about Craft is that it incorporates some of the stuff I like about Notion, which is that it kind of breaks free of the whole idea of docs as a fundamental construct. You can just basically have a canvas that you're just basically dropping blocks onto. I think that's very useful. It makes it very, very easy to share individual parts of your project with other people. If other people need to see them, approve them, give their notes on it, without having to basically show them, export the entire document and see all the warts that you've got on things you barely even started. It's because it's using its own cloud storage to make that happen. Scrivener gets a lot of flack for making it really difficult to sync between sync between devices. But that's because, again, how do you sync 3 gigabytes worth of files and making sure that all of them have been touched properly? I'm not sure it's quite for me, but it's definitely worth promoting. It's definitely worth telling people that this thing exists and please take a look at it. If you're finding yourself being falling short by Google Docs, Microsoft Office, or any of the apps that I've been mentioning, it's also kind of on the launch pad still, because they're still building stuff. They're building out something that I've really is attracting to me, the ability to edit stuff via a web client, not just a Mac or iOS client. That's been one of the big things that's been missing from Scrivener for me. I stick with it despite the fact that I can't use it on my Chromebook or I can't use it on random device that has a web browser. I would love if that had that feature, but it seems to tick a lot of boxes that I would love to have seen in Ulysses and Scrivener. For that reason, definitely worth taking a look at. Also, there's a free tier, very, very useful for if you're paying nothing for it. For $45 a year, you get the more muscular version of this.
Craft.do, and it is beautiful. I played with it a little bit, and as I mentioned last week, the only reason I stopped using it is because it's not cross-platform, because I think it's fantastic. I really was impressed by it.
Yeah.
But unlike some people, I don't live on Macintoshes all the time. Actually, more and more because of the Mac M1 Pro. I'm really
see how they suck you in.
They really, I have to say, I was all about my framework laptop until I got the new MacBook Pro, and it's like, wow, this thing is kind of fast. Yeah. Kind of fast. Amazing.
You're ecumenical. You embrace all faiths.
I am. I like what's good.
To be applauded.
I also noticed that I'm very faddish. I'll go through periods of really, deep interest in this, and then it moves on, and now it's that. And that's just me. Hey guys, you know what? You did a good job, and we're now done. MacBreak Weekly is almost through. But first, a plug for Rene Ritchie, youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. You just finished your myth-busting episode. Are you going to take a nap and hold off before you do
No, I want
more?
to talk about the iPhone 14 camera. That's big news.
The iPhone 14 camera. Holy
big
cow.
sensor, pixel binning. It might be fun.
Do we know, though? I mean, this is rumor, right?
Yeah, it's rumors, but it makes sense, especially if you want to get towards 8K. You got to get more pixels in that camera.
See, now the only reason I ask is I'm feeling guilty that I didn't bring it up. Next week, you'll know all about it. You'll have lots to say. You can watch the video in the meantime. YouTube.com/Rene Ritchie. Andy Ihnatko, when are you on GBH in Boston next?
On Friday, as usual, 12:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. You can stream it live at WGBHnews.org, or you can stream it later. They usually put them up later in the night.
Nice. How's the project? You know what I mean? The project, how's that coming?
It's moving forward. I'm still up to my personal deadlines on getting it done. My only bottleneck is, as usual, the design stuff, which is like I have to remind myself that the content is what's important. It's not the masthead. It's not the site design. We're not trying to steer people to a store. We don't need to track their eye movements and figure out where they're clicking. Even if you just go over the basic WordPress template, that'll be fine, Andy. So
I look forward to it. Just know the world awaits.
I will announce, because I'm interested to see if any of this is a good idea. I've been working on this for several months, but it's still a good idea inside my head. But yeah, exactly.
I wonder if this is a good idea. OfficeHours.global, the 24-hour global phenomenon, continues on there. How's your studio coming along, Alex?
It's coming well. On Mondays, we talk about it. So if you watch the Monday sessions, you'll see us talking through it. So we made a bunch of decisions, because what happens is I show everybody, okay, this is where I'm at. And then everyone goes, oh, I wouldn't do this. And have you thought about this? And what's funny is we started using MakerPipe, is a thing that I've been using to I'm planning to build a bunch of this with. And the founder of MakerPipe, David Schlitter, was on our show last week. This week, he was on Monday. He's like putting in questions like, how are you going to connect this? He's like the person who owns MakerPipe is like looking at,
That's
wow.
So funny. Of course, you're using MakerPipe to design this studio. So
yeah, exactly. Perfect. I'm building it with it. And so which I did before he came on, or before I knew anything about them directly. We just started buying it, And so anyway, but we've decided, we don't need shelves here, and we have to think about this weight distribution. We're trying to build my new desk. If it happens, you'll see us build it this coming Monday, or not build it, but the design will come out more. Is that it's a 514 Dolby desk that literally has wheels and will move around in the room, so I can move it. It's not just turning like you have a twit, but moving like it's on wheels, but it's got 514 and a teleprompter and camera, and all the lights are all in one thing that sits on wheels. Because what I want to be able to do is have my background be different. I want to say, I really want this kind of background or that kind of background. We even talked about putting it on one of those big turntables, so it's slowly turning, so that if over an hour, it's just you just see different parts of the set. But we're gonna not do that first. So anyway, but
Alex, can we just build matching volumes? Can we just talk to each other and build volume sets for both of us?
Exactly. It'd be so much fun. But if you're interested in sets, there's a lot of discussion about weight distribution and lights and in routing and process, because I've got one area that's kind of my workbench area, one area that's my synthesizer area, one area that's the shelving and the fireplace, and so there's a whole bunch of things that are all in a little 15 by 20 foot cube that we're figuring out together. And so that's on Mondays. And again, one of our best sessions. I mean, I think that some of our best sessions so far have been with you, Leo, and Andy and Rene, are some of the best sessions we've had in our second hours. And Michael Krasny was right up there with it last week.
Nice.
So people should go up to, if you check out last Thursday, and then we're streaming. I learned how to make pierogies on Sunday.
Love pierogies.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. And all of these things are, it's just a fascinating puzzle. But what you're going to see on Saturday that we run from 11 until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it is going to look a lot like a broadcast, but it's not. It's all over Zoom. And you're just going to see us piecing together all these technologies that are, part of it's being done in the web. I mean, part of it's being done in the cloud. Part of it's controlling, like literally remote controlling our switchers. There's 4 switchers being controlled automatically from someone else, like someone in Germany, actually. We'll be sitting there switching our switchers at home while we're doing the cooking. And then all of our signals are being cut in the cloud. And so, and you can actually, in office hours, listen to the comms and watch the behind the scenes. You can either watch the show on YouTube, but you can also just listen to us and ask questions and talk about it while we're doing the show. So it's a fun way to learn how to do this kind of stuff. So anyway, that's coming up.
Officehours.global. And if you want to employ Alex in your next stream, 090.media.
We do a lot of crazy things.
MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. I mentioned the live time because you can watch us do it live. I mean, I think most people listen on demand because it is a podcast. But if you'd like to be part of the live audience, just go to live.twit.tv. There's audio and video streams there, and chat with us live at irc.twit.tv. Club Twit members can also chat with us in our private Discord, which is a great place to hang 24/7. Lots of fun going on in there. You can also get the shows after the fact on the website, twit.tv. For this show, it's twit.tv/MBW, but all the shows are there. There's a YouTube channel for every show as well, including this show, youtube.com/MacBreakWeekly, or go to youtube.com/twit for links to all of the show YouTube streams. And then finally, of course, the most common and best way to subscribe is use a podcast application. We're in every one of them. Just search for it, subscribe, and you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. If your podcast application supports reviews, please leave us a 5-star review. Let the world know you listen to, I think, what is now the longest-running Mac tech show anywhere, MacBreak Weekly. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Rene. Thank you all for listening. Now get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Do you have an iPhone, an Apple Watch, an iPad, or any number of Apple devices? Well, you have got to check out iOS Today with me, Micah Sargent, and Rosemary Orchard. We cover all things iOS and help you get the most out of your devices.